Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Thursday, April the 2nd. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and we are joined today on the show by a special guest, Rachel, joining us here. Let me get the last name. How do you pronounce that?
Krychak. It's a lot easier than my old last name.
Yeah, there we go. Formerly Dory, but of course Krychak now. But great to have Rachel with us here on this Thursday edition. Rachel, just before we get into recapping yesterday and talking about the Thursday games, on the slate, just introduce everybody to who you are and your background in hockey and actually what you're doing right now involved with Betalytics.
Yeah, so thanks for having me on. We've been trying to get this to happen for way too long. It feels like a whole season at this point, if not longer, and it just hasn't worked out with everything that's been going on. But yeah, I've worked for a couple of hockey teams, most recently the Vancouver Canucks. And I did analytics for them. And when I was in Vancouver, I was also.
And they've clearly taken off since you left there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're doing great. So I worked under Bruce Boudreau as his challenge person. So, whenever there's a challenge, I kind of wish I could bet on it because I had extensive training from the NHL situation room on it. And my hit rate's pretty good. So I wish I could bet on that, but you can't. And so, yeah, now I write for ESPN. I do a lot of the draft and analytical angles for hockey. I'm pretty sure I'm the only person who writes about the draft for them. So that's fun. But my day-to-day is I am the CTO and co-founder of Betalytics. We're a site that isn't just for betting. We do heavy analytics as well in terms of tell a narrative, tell a story. It started with just hockey. It is now baseball, football, soccer, NCAA basketball, NBA basketball, NCAA football, the World Cup. It's everything. But my baby has always been hockey. And so that's where the majority of the new and up and coming tools that I've built are. And yeah, you can check us out if you want to try it for free. You can. You get 5 days free. So I'm not interested in telling people you have to sign up immediately before you know what you're signing up for. And I want people to get a chance to understand that I'm not trying to sell you picks. I refuse to sell anybody picks. That's not a thing. So I'm a big, here's your information. Let's rely on what I relied on when I worked in the NHL, and this is what teams use, and so this is what I'm going to use to help you guys out too.
Now, your information that you put together, it's basically what, if someone is money line, puck line, totals better, they'd find use of it. If someone's more of a player props type of better, they'd find use to it. So basically, it doesn't matter what type of bets you're making in hockey, they'll find everything that you put together for Betalytics very, very handy, very useful to help them, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We do everything. The only thing we don't do is we do not do NCAA player props because those are children in my eyes, and I don't think that we should be doing that. So I kind of have a moral, do not do that. But from a hockey perspective, it is everything from game lines, total puck lines, player props. It's head to head. It's recent success. There's a lot there. And yeah, we like to tweet out screenshots and stuff like that of different things. And I can definitely show you guys some of the stuff. But yeah, no matter what you're betting on as it pertains to hockey, we can help you out.
There you go. And that's what that's why you're on the show. We Alex and I think we can help people out on a daily basis with NHL betting, and we certainly did that last night. It's a great segue, by the way, into recapping last night. First of all, the Betcast, Patreon exclusive Betcast that we had last night was great. We appreciate everyone joining us. The camaraderie. It's not just watching the games, commenting on the games as they're happening. We comment on what we watch and throwing back a few drinks and placing some live bets. We love doing that, but it's the camaraderie. We really do share great company, the people. There's never any bad, no one's starting shit. No one's really, there's no really bad vibes and angst among anybody that joins us on these betcasts. It's really great. It's a harmonious experience with the community. And that's always one of the great things about it. And last night was the laughs too. Benji, definitely Benji, of course, one of the Patreon members that was on the betcast last night. But it was a fun betcast. It was a profitable betcast, live bets and especially pregame bets. We'll start with Vancouver, Colorado last night. I mean, I really liked, and you're not going to hear me say that, but I said it on the show yesterday because I used it as best bet. Vancouver goal in the first period, plus 102. And I said, I don't like this for Colorado. They just drilled Calgary. They know they're going to probably win the Central Division. There's no urgency whatsoever for the Avs coming off a blowout win against Calgary to come out storming against a lowly, sad sack team like Vancouver, totally disengaged, totally disenchanted early is what I expected from Colorado, but I didn't expect that. They were really off. They were really disconnected, out of sync, disinterested, flat, whatever words you want to use in that first period. And I didn't think it would take less than a minute for that Vancouver goal in the first period to hit, but it did. We had that. We had both teams to score plus 176, I think it was, in the first period. It was a great result. First period over. I just wish I had more faith in Vancouver winning the hockey game, because here's Colorado minus 450 favorites, losing outright to the Vancouver Canucks last night. And that's why we said this on the betcast, Alex. You just cannot be a bridge jumper in this industry and expect to be profitable long term. You can't lay minus 450 prices. And I know there's people out there that would have unloaded their 401k and taken Colorado minus 450 last night, saying, it's Colorado, man. It's the best team in the NHL. It's one of the worst teams in the NHL, Vancouver. How can this lose? How can this not come through? And that's why you don't do that, because these are human beings. These are not machines that play these games here in the NHL. And you're going to get flat spots. And you're going to get, for Vancouver, for as bad a team as they are, and don't make no mistake about it, they're still a bad team, even though they won last night. That's like a Stanley Cup final for them last night. When you're in the middle of a bad season and you get a chance to play a team like Colorado, you're going to maybe be a little more inspired and be a little bit more locked in, dialed in, and engaged to give a heck of an effort. And we saw that from Vancouver. They didn't always play well last night because they still gave up goals, but they played hard, and they played harder than Colorado last night. And that's why they were able to win that game. So that was a beautiful result there with most of the bets cashing there. We had the Vancouver win in that one. What else? I keep forgetting something. Yeah, Sam Malinsky. We talked about him on the show, filling the shoes of Cale Makar, who was out, playing with Devon Taves, getting upgraded to the number one power play unit for Colorado last night. The great value with his point prop. If you bet his point prop, his assist prop, and his goal prop, you hit all three. And in fact, he had a couple of points in that game for Colorado. So, we always love those situations. 8-6 Vancouver win last night. What a great game Anaheim San Jose was, the TNT game. 4-3 Sharks. They get the job done there. Unbelievable win for San Jose, down 3-2 late in the third. Those two quick goals. I can't say enough about Macklin Celebrini. Incredible what he's doing right now for the San Jose Sharks. 100 points as a 19-year-old kid, just basically willing his team and putting them on his back and saying, we're getting into the playoffs, or I'm going to make it. I'm going to do my damnedest to get us into the playoffs. What a win there for San Jose last night, 4-3. And that was a good game. We had the over trifecta. First period over, both teams to score first period, full game over 6.5. Noting that it had been 7-6 and 5-4 in the previous two meetings this year between the Ducks and the Sharks, and it was a game that ended up going over the total. And this game at St. Louis, LA, 2-1 win for the Kings in overtime against the Blues. We'll give LA some credit for that win last night. Forsberg ended up being the right call by DJ Smith to go with him in net. Played pretty solid. We did cash the draw last night. We were a little worried about that, Alex, there when it was 1-0 for so long, but the Blues get that tying goal. So nice to hit the draw, plus 310. What is that now? 5 straight Blues-Kings games now last night that have gone past regulation, which is why we like the draw there. We did have St. Louis money line, so frustrating. And it was a great goal by Trevor Moore, down the right side. Really good end-to-end rush and beat Binnington for the overtime winner. But overall, a great night, profitable night. And the betcast was fun as always. Alex, your thoughts on a very fun Wednesday night?
Yeah, like I said, yeah, wonderful betcast. Thanks for everybody who chimed in and joined us. And like I said, it was a good spot. 3 games. When you have a game like a Colorado, Vancouver, and a team that's nearly closing minus 500. Like I said, we talked about this is the perfect spot to attack it live because maybe you find spots with the dog. Certainly did not expect 8-6 in favor of Vancouver, but we did like the goals early. I took your play a step further and not only go Vancouver goal in the first period, but first goal first period plus 230. Basically a coin flip price, and you're giving me a coin flip play, and you're giving me 2-1 plus 230 with that. So I'm going to take that every time. That was a fantastic value, and to catch it as early as we did opened up the door for us to make some other plays as well. But the biggest takeaway from that, and I sent it in our chat after the game, with Jared Bednar's quote, where he says, we can't have any excuses. And he says, if this is the way we're going to play, we're going to
That
have
wasn't
these
a
kind of
fucking
excuses.
throwaway game in his eyes. If you listen to
No,
him post game last night,
no.
not at all.
He
was
says,
not
he
happy.
says, if we're going to play with excuses, it might be a short run. And that's a damning quote from a team that was running away with first place in the league for the majority of the year, and now has all of a sudden kind of just. I mean, they haven't fallen off the cliff. They're still going to win the Central. They're still going to more than likely win the President's Trophy. But that's just a hell of a quote to say when you talk about, like I said, what should be a throwaway game. Okay, fine, 8-6, you lost to Vancouver, so what? No one got hurt. Move on to the next game. But he's not seeing it that way. So we talk about where's the motivation for Colorado game to game as we head into the playoffs. Might be a little more motivation next game based off of that quote. So I thought that was something that really kind of hung tight with me. LA St. Louis, like I said, fun game. We were hoping for more goals, but the important thing was we got that draw. 5 in a row, 6 of the last 8 meetings now between those two teams going past regulation. So love to see those cash in, especially when we've had, like I said, some tough beats with the draws over the last week and a half. That was a nice one. And then, like I said, Anaheim, San Jose. Talked about how we haven't seen these two teams playing meaningful hockey in April in a long time, certainly let alone against one another on TNT. It was a fantastic game. Like you mentioned it on the betcast. You nailed it perfectly. What a great game when we're talking about growing the game, showing the new young faces who are going to be the face of the league for the next decade plus. That was the game. That was a true showcase game for the league, for the network, and for both those teams. And for San Jose to get that goal late and get that win, and now firmly right in the trenches of that wild card race with a week and some change left. It's absolutely fun. It's got to be fantastic to root for any of the 3 teams right now in California. With how dismal things looked for some of those teams the last 2, 3, 4+ years, and now for all of them to be playing meaningful hockey in April, that's great for them, great for the league.
And there's still a chance all 3 could be in the playoffs still, LA, Anaheim, and San Jose. So exciting finish down the stretch. Oh, yeah, one last thing before I get Rachel's thoughts on last night is that, the 2-0 bargain bin special of the night sweep for me.
Oh, yeah.
Phenomenal stuff.
Nice.
Parker Kelly, plus 600 for Colorado to find the back of the net. That's now 3 games in a row with a goal for him. And the other one, he scored the game winner in the last minute for San Jose. My other bargain bin special, Alex Wenberg for the San Jose Sharks at plus 380 last night. So a 2-0 sweep, baby, with the bargain bin special of the night. It was absolutely phenomenal. Loved it. Great night. And the best bet couldn't have been easier with the Canucks goal in the first period. So it was great. Great night overall. Rachel, your thoughts? A 3-game slate, but as we said on the betcast, Alex and I last night, Rachel, it was a heck of an entertaining 3 games.
Yeah, I mean, I would always say, especially in hockey, like we had this discussion internally, and I've had it so many times now that I can speak my mind publicly about hockey. There is no situation where any team, even first place in 32nd, should be a minus 300 favorite. Like that, hockey as a sport is too random. There are too many factors that, like, a bounce off of a glass, off of a stanchion, can lead to a goal. That doesn't happen in soccer, right? That doesn't happen in football. Then you have the officials where, like, on any given night, it could be a car wreck. And so I look at this, and far be it from me, I will never place not a dollar on the Vancouver Canucks to win anything. But the moment I see any team that's minus 300 or worse, I'm betting the underdog, because that tells me that line's grossly mispriced and that there's value there. And so I mean, I think when you look at it, that's kind of the approach where if you're interested in finding value and you're interested in really what the most likely outcome is. Was the most likely outcome that Colorado wins last night? Yeah. But at minus 450, absolutely not. They're not more than 80% to win that game. So I think that's kind of how I would handle that. I thought the best game of the night in terms of quality of hockey, because that was fun. Like Colorado, Vancouver was fun, but quality of hockey, I say Anaheim and San Jose. Like to me, don't get me wrong, Nikita Kucherov and Nathan McKinnon have been fantastic this year. If San Jose makes the playoffs, I don't even think we can have a discussion about who the Hart Trophy winner should be at that point. Like Macklin Celebrini, you want to talk about a bargain bin special. I looked this morning. He's like plus 750 on some books to win the Hart Trophy. He was plus 1,000 the other night. I'm like, this is
Jonathan Davis, Rachel, is a great colleague of ours, and he's covered the Kings for a while. He does VSiN stuff, and he's a great friend of ours. He's on the Betcast a lot. He took Macklin. He believes you. He's right there with you. I think he took Macklin Celebrini at 2,200. Just a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, and the price has dropped since then, and rightfully so. So JD was on that early, and he's got a great price on Macklin. He's right in the hunt. I agree with it.
I have 3 futures bets, and like even if none of them hit, like it's whatever. But if even one of them hits, I am going to be sitting this so pretty from an awards perspective. So I found out I'm not voting on awards this year, which means I can bet on them. And so I have Macklin Celebrini, but I took him in December. And he was plus 9,000 in December. So I was like, wow, that's a mispriced line. And I had Zach Werenski at plus 3,300 when Cale Makar was just kind of lapping the field at the beginning of the season. I was like, I'm not sure about this. We're an injury away from this being Zach Werenski's time. And then when I saw Buffalo kind of start to heat up, I took Lindy Ruff, and he's only like, I think it was plus 700, maybe 650 when I got him. It kind of feels like he might win, though. And so, I mean, you never know.
Definitely got a chance. Yep.
He definitely, put it this way, he's going to get nominated. So I look at that, but like, for me, when I look to bet on awards, I'm not looking at who's playing the best right now. I'm looking at where is the misprice, because if one thing happens, what changes? What happens if Nathan McKinnon got hurt? What happens if Nikita Kucherov got hurt? You're going to tell me that a guy who has 50 more points than his next teammate isn't going to not be 8,000 anymore, 9,000, whatever? Like, that's just not going to happen. And so that game, like watching the Sharks come back, I just think that those two teams, the California road trip is very soon, if not already, going to be a problem again in the NHL. And it's most certainly a situation where it's no longer a laughing stock. Like you have to go in there and you got to play proper games. And then I'm not going to lie to you. I went to bed. I wasn't watching the LA Kings St. Louis game, but I woke up this morning and watched like the 15-minute elongated pack. It's really hard not to be impressed by Dylan Holloway this year. Like the guy is just incredible, and he is so like.
Well, they've been saying that on this show for me for a year or two. Yeah,
that 2 years
get away on him. Yeah.
Yep. Oh man, Dylan Holloway has been my friend's like draft son, and I was like, "Hey, relax. Like he'll be a good middle six guy." Boom, first line St. Louis. Okay. So, I mean, I love watching that kid play. You're never going to catch me not watching Robert Thomas or Jordan Kyrou. I think they're highly entertaining players, even though St. Louis isn't all that entertaining this year. And so, like, for me, at least the highlight pack looked fantastic. It looked like it was a lot of fun. But, I mean, there were 3 good games last night. You really can't complain about that.
Yeah, no doubt. The games were absolutely phenomenal. Like last night, for 3 games, you couldn't have asked for much more entertaining. And I'm just looking at it right now. Other than Will Smith, who's had a pretty damn good season himself, Macklin Celebrini's more than doubled every other San Jose Sharks teammate in points this year. More than doubled.
So silly.
It's absolutely insane. He's got 105. Then you got Will Smith at 50, and he's nearly doubled Will Smith. And then he's doubled everyone else. More than doubled everyone else in points. Yeah. So if that's
I don't
not
even think you
MVP
can have the
candidate,
discussion if San Jose gets in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It has to be him. Like it just has to.
I mean, it's just an amazing season for a 19-year-old kid, and to be doing what he's doing. And he's gotten he's elevated his game even more in my mind watching it. as the games have become even more important and more critical here down the stretch.
He's
Sign
not
of a guy
afraid
that's
of the big moment.
No.
And that's the biggest thing. That's the one thing you worry about with these first round picks, these number one overall, these kids, when they get to that moment. And granted, we don't get to see a lot of them get to a playoff moment or a big time moment at 18, 19, 20. It usually takes their team a couple of years because their whole team's rebuilding. To see him step up and deliver game winning goals, it's kind of what they were talking about with Cole Caulfield on NHL Network too. Same thing. The goals that he has, the goals that these two guys have, are game-winning goals, game-tying goals, important goals. These aren't empty net goals. These aren't garbage time goals when they're down 5. And that means something. And for them to be able to do that at the younger ages and not be afraid of that moment now, what are they going to do when they're 25, 26, 27 in the prime of their career?
I have to say, as a Canadian, I'm not exactly upset that Canada has Macklin Celebrini, Matthew Schaefer, and Connor Bedard all under the age of 20. Like I'm certainly not angry about that, especially when you see like you just said, Alex, like Macklin Celebrini, I mean, at the Olympics, he was hilariously good, but his ability to step up in the big moments, that's huge. I don't think we even need to cover Matthew Schaefer at this point. That kid, he broke. I was looking at my draft model today because I'm getting ready to do my rankings for 2026. He broke the model because he performed that well that the model mistakenly flipped him to being a forward because it didn't think that a player of that like sort of statistical makeup could be a defenseman and produce at this level.
As a
that
rookie
is the level
at that
of
age
good.
too. As a rookie at that age too, and it probably, like you're right, it basically the model couldn't, like, it just, what did it, the brain of the model exploded essentially. At the thought of that, what Matthew
I ended up
Schaefer's doing.
removing him from the model because I was like, I can't even keep him in the training set because he breaks everything. So I was just like, all right, you know what, exclude because generational talent. I had to do the same thing with McDavid. So it's really, every so often a guy like that will come along where you're like, well, let me just crumple that up and throw it in the garbage because like that's not the same. It's just they're not playing the same plane as everybody else. They're doing stuff different in their first few years. And I mean, I think Connor Bedard's going to get there. I think Macklin Celebrini is going to win a ton of awards in his time. And like, let's face it, the NHL's in such a good spot, even with Crosby and Ovechkin in the twilight of their careers. Like, there's just so many young kids that are hilariously good.
It's the perfect passing of the torch. And I don't know if the league's ever had a true passing like this, where you have, like you said, Ovechkin, Crosby, Patrick Kane, those guys at the very end of their careers, and right at the very beginning, you have top tier talent, like you said, Matthew Schaefer and Celebrini and Bedard just all of a sudden look like stars right away, not taking a couple of years to develop. This is a fantastic transition for the league.
Yeah, I agree with that. No question. It's a fun time to be a hockey fan, fun time to be a hockey bettors. And with that in mind, great night, but it's time to look ahead to Thursday. It is a huge slate, 14 games. So we know it's going to be a long show. I will try, and you know it's not easy for me. I will try to keep my analysis a little bit shorter here on each game. But we start with Boston and Florida. The Bruins -160 road favorites, 6.5 the total in this game. The Bruins, of course, coming off a very solid 6-3 win against Dallas at home. Their 4th straight win, 6-1 in their last 7 games. Really picking up steam and putting themselves in a spot where it's going to be tough for Boston to fall out and miss the playoffs at this point. They've given themselves some cushion right now in the playoff race when you look at where the standings are right now, with the Bruins currently at 94 points. They are 8 points clear now of the last 3 teams out: Ottawa, Detroit, and Philadelphia, that trio that all have 86 points. So it's looking pretty good for Boston to make the playoffs, but you still want to keep winning games here down the stretch. Florida's been one of these teams. It's difficult to really get involved from a side perspective because I faded Florida with Ottawa the other night, just thinking, here's Ottawa, 2 days off, losing to Tampa Bay. Pummel this Florida team that's decimated. Paul Maurice and the Panthers have shut down half the team already this season due to injuries, and it's just definitely a depleted lineup. And Ottawa gets drilled in the first period, 5-0. They were awful. Allmark was terrible, and I've already ranted about him enough that you can't say I would need rest against Tampa, not play, and then play like that with a couple days rest against Florida. Although at the same time, while he was not good at all, the blue line has to shoulder some blame too for Ottawa. They were terrible in that game, but Florida took advantage of it. Give them credit. They still played with good effort, even with the shorthanded lineup and everybody out that was out. And if you look at the Panthers going into tonight's game, obviously you're still got, like I said, half of your key players, half of your roster missing. You've got no Reinhart, no Lundell, no Rodriguez. Of course, Barkov and Marchand. On the blue line, you've got Ekblad out, Balinskis out, Mikkola out, Kulikov out. So it is definitely a mash unit. I mean, after Gus Forsling and Seth Jones on the blue line, you've got Donovan Sabrango, Michael Benning, Tobias Bjornfoot, and Michaelis Havorka. That's basically an AHL blue line you're trotting out there if you're Florida. So when you think about it, Boston should win tonight. Boston should score. Boston's suddenly been trending over of late, and they've been scoring more goals of late. You look at the Bruins, 4 straight games have gone over the total. The head-to-head series, the 2 previous games this year, Bruins versus Panthers, 4-3, 5-4, both won by Florida, and both went over the total, but this is a different-looking Florida team right now. I'm interested in Bruins team total over and over 6.5. That's what I ended up playing here in this one. Alex, what do you think here, Bruins, Panthers?
Yeah, right there with you on that Bruins team total. Grab that 3.5 minus $1.06 available at FanDuel. But I also like Bruins first goal, first period, plus 105 as well. I think they can come out with a blitz early. And this is a Florida, as big of a rivalry as this is, like you said, with all the key pieces missing for Florida, I don't think there's going to be that much emphasis for, the Charlotte Checkers essentially to kind of go after Boston and try to kind of ruin their parade. If this was a healthier Florida team, I could see where maybe they'd want to play spoiler. But in this spot, it seems like the Bruins could name their price. So first goal, first period, and team total over for me.
Yeah, when it comes to people are saying in the chat, and I get the concern, right? Boston, I want to bet them at home. They have a great home record this year. And Rachel, I know we've talked about this a lot throughout the year, that 28-10-1 at home, but on the road, they've had some real problems. 15-21 on the road for the Boston Bruins this year. They've been a very sharp home road split team. But I just feel they've gained momentum. They had that bad road losing streak, Rachel. They've kind of gotten away from it now. They've won a few road games recently. They won in Buffalo just recently last week. This is a decimated Florida. I think Florida will play loose and play hard, and I think they will chip in some goals, as Boring Bet says in the chat, but I don't think they're going to keep Boston off the score sheet. So that's why I went with, and I don't want to lay minus 160. And as we often say on this show, when we like a team, but we don't want to lay the money line price, we go with the team total instead, over 3.5. And that's what I'm doing here. And Alex, it seems like as well. But Rachel, how do you see this one? Bruins, Panthers.
Yeah, so I look at this, and when I'm evaluating a game, the first thing I do is I look at our projected score. And our projected score for this game is 3.5 for the Bruins and 2.8 for the Panthers. So that right there tells me you should be leading Boston. Then I go to the levers of what are they like at home? What have they been like on the road? What are they like lately? All of those kinds of things. They're both high-paced teams lately. They're Florida's 3rd highest pace in the last 10 games in terms of expected goals created and given up, and the Bruins are 11th. And so this is a team that's giving up and taking a lot. And so I think it's going to be an entertaining game. You've got the Brad Marchand angle, even though obviously injured. But when you look at this, I look at this and I go, I think it probably isn't going to be your 1-goal game. As bad as Boston is on the road, that defense score for Florida is genuinely concerning. Like that is, I would take the Vancouver Canucks defense score over that. And that is saying something. And so when you look at this, I really am on, I like the team total with you guys, but 2 things I would point out, Matthew Tkachuk and Pavel Zacha. Both of them rank in the top 12. Matthew Tkachuk is 9th. Pavel Zacha is 12th for scoring chances created over the last 10 games, respectively, for their teams. So they are getting the bulk of the chances for their teams. And obviously, Matthew Tkachuk doesn't have a whole lot to play with at this point. And so his goal price is pretty throttled down because he's really the only guy generating. But Pavel Zacha's point number and his goal number is not nearly high enough. Especially for the opportunities that he's getting and for the chances that he is generating. If you think about it, if he is not playing against Gus Forsling or Seth Jones, we're talking about not even getting secondary matchups here. We're talking about like AHL level matchups for a guy who's created the 12th most scoring chances in the last 10 games in the entire National Hockey League. That's a guy you have to take a look at. Minus 125 for a point. And his goal is nearly plus 300. Like, that is, for me, I look at that and I go, I have to lay some coin on that.
I've been laying some coin on Pavel Zacha a lot lately. Bargain bin
Yeah.
specials multiple times. I think just recently we had Pavel Zacha for a bargain bin special. Absolutely, 100% agree with that. Now, you mentioned pace, third in pace for which team did you say was third in pace? You said
Florida's third in pace.
How is that measured with what your work and your numbers and your model? Is it basic? Because when I say pace, those teams playing with pace, for me, it's just eye test. I watch them, and they're trading chances more. They're not sitting back. And they're playing more of a rush game, up the ice. As far as a statistical measurement, you mentioned some of the things that could measure pace, right? Expected goals for and against, and chances generated, and high danger chances. I'm sure it's some combination of that where you measure pace, correct?
Exactly. That's exactly it. It's a combination. We have an expected goals model. And basically that measures like whether the shot is on net or not. It's the location of the shot and the type of shot, and whether there was or was not a rebound. Because we don't have passing data to the degree that we need to for public use, you don't get the Royal Road pass. And so when we look at pace, you're looking at what is a team generating from an expected goals perspective and what are they giving up. And then you're looking at the scoring chances, not just like as a whole, but the high danger ones. You get a boost for more high danger chances. So a team doesn't necessarily have to be a rush back and forth team to be playing at, quote, a high pace. Because if a team gets in on the cycle and leans on you and generates 5 scoring chances in a minute, that's pretty high pace. It's also a very bad time for your goaltender. That's not remotely enjoyable. And Florida's done a really good job of getting in on the forecheck. They're creating off the rush, but they've also, like, you look at the game against Ottawa, I think 4 or 5 of their goals were not only off the rush, but like odd man rushes. And Florida's been one of the better teams at creating odd man rushes over the last probably month and a half. And so that's something that gets considered. And when you're playing at pace, it's good for things like the total. It's good for things like goaltender saves. It's good for things like scoring chances. So guys who are high up on the scoring chances list, more likely to get opportunities, more likely to score.
There we go. Great description for that. Exactly. I mean, pace is that's how you measure it. That's kind of how you measure it. Is basically chances generated, high danger chances generated, the location of the shots. All those kind of things kind of mesh together.
Just to answer Nick's question, I see it in the chat, or Nikki's question in the chat.
Oh, what software do you use? I was about to get there. Yes, good question.
Yeah, so I actually make my own software, and it's called Betalytics. You could see like my little name thing, and that's where you can go if you want to try it out. You can. It's free for the first 5 days, and if you want to give it a shot, and kind of like I said off the top, I'm not interested in selling something to somebody who doesn't even know what it is and doesn't know if they like it. So I'm always willing to give a few days. You can try it out, and all of my model stuff is there. So everything that's on the site, unless it's credited to somebody else, is built by me.
Very good. Excellent.
Nice.
Yeah, good to know that. As far as other props, obviously Zacha. We've been riding Pavel Zacha for a while for the Boston Bruins as far as goal prop. But I'll throw out a couple more. Mackie Samoskevich, return of the Mackie Samoskevich, back-to-back games with a goal for him. He's definitely been noticeable. He's taken advantage of the greater ice time, top 6 role now. Arvidsson, he scored in 3 of the last 5 games. He's a pest. He can get under your skin, but AJ Greer has scored in 3 of the last 5 games and scored last game for Florida. Husnudinov scored last game. We've talked for months about how his spot in the lineup, there's been value playing alongside Pasternak and Minton on that top line for the Bruins. So those are a couple other props I'd be interested in there in that game as well.
Make a quick note too. I know it's like I said, trepidation with backing Boston on the road, but the fact that Florida's out of it, probably going to be a split crowd, if not more of a heavy black and yellow crowd like we used to see back in the old days when Florida was terrible. So Boston playing well. There's a lot of Massachusetts natives that live in Florida. I think that maybe a split crowd, if not more of a pro Boston crowd. So I think that takes away some of that trepidation too of backing, like I said, the Bruins, how bad they've been on the road.
Yeah, no question. All right, Columbus and Carolina. We've got Carolina minus 190 home favorite, 6.5 the total in this game. This is kind of going to be a reminiscent of what I said about Vancouver and Colorado yesterday. I think for Carolina, look, they're probably going to win the Metro. Pittsburgh's not going to catch them. Islanders aren't going to catch them. They're 8 points up on Pittsburgh. They're 11 up on the Islanders. It's probably a question of when, and plus they got games in hand on both of those teams. So it's really when, not if, they clinch the Metro Division. They just played Columbus, coming off a game where they were not happy about the game against Montreal, where they lost at home. Rod Brindamore and the players talked about, we weren't really thrilled with our performance. They played like it in Columbus, got the win 5-2, and now they're playing the same Columbus team they just beat, now back in Raleigh, and Columbus has to come into this game thinking utmost urgency, coming off that loss. Clinging, and I mean clinging, to that second wild card spot in the East because the other teams are tripping over their own 2 fucking feet too. Ottawa, Detroit, Philadelphia, and that's why Columbus is still in that spot because the other teams aren't doing a damn thing to take advantage. So it's like, who wants this wild card spot in the East? Who wants to be in the playoffs right now? Anybody? My goodness. I mean, that's the way it's going with these teams. But I think Columbus shows urgency early, maybe a little flat start to Carolina here, coming off already beating this Jackets team. And one thing I looked back and I noticed this. You'll see that prior to the last game in Columbus had played well at home against Carolina until that last game the other night, 5-2. And in Carolina has beaten Columbus recently. But if you look at the last 2 times in Carolina, Jackets, Hurricanes, Columbus scored first. Columbus led after the first period. Each of the last 2 times they visited Raleigh. That's worth noting. Give me Columbus, first goal, first period at a great plus price. You can find at FanDuel with that, and give me that Columbus first period money line. If the team total in the first period with Columbus drops to a little bit of a lower number, I'll get in on that first period goal as well for the Jackets here in this game. So those are all the angles I'm looking at. More so early. Do they win the game? I don't know if I trust Columbus's third periods lately as far as being able to trust them to win the game. But I think early in this opening period, they're worth a look. And I'm seeing at Pinnacle, it's minus 140. It might be cheaper at FanDuel. Columbus goal in the first period. I am definitely interested in that as well here against Freddie Anderson. Unsteady Freddie, as we've been calling him this year, who's probably going to get the start. So I like Columbus in all those looks early with the Jackets here. Alex, what do you think? Columbus, Carolina.
I think we even actually talked about Columbus first goal, first period last night, a little bit during the betcast, but I did like that, grab that plus 165. And shopping around, this first period over is not bad. You can get FanDuel minus 136 as opposed to where offshores you're seeing some minus 145s, 150s. So obviously, if you have offshore book, I'd wait and grab this live. But I do like this first period over quite a bit. Like I said, with Columbus pushing the pace, Carolina, they're still going to be engaged and willing to have their shots and get their chances as well. So this could be a back and forth game. Anything else, I'd look for a live. But the early looks with Columbus first goal, first period, and first period over for me.
Yeah, it's plus 165 at FanDuel, the first goal, first period for Columbus. And FanDuel's got Jackets goal in the first period a little, not much cheaper, but a little cheaper at minus 138 for Columbus to score in the first period. And like I said, you could always look to wait a couple minutes into the first period and see if that price drops a bit, and you'll be able to get Columbus goal in the first period closer to even money. And it is Merzlikins in net, so I don't mind people in the chat seem to like the over in this game. We could see Merzlikins give up a few because Merzlikins shutouts are few and far between. He's played largely better with a little more like Rick Bowness. The one great thing he's done is somehow he's gotten some confidence back in Merzlikins. But Merzlikins is still not one of these goalies that's going to completely shut the door night in and night out. Rachel, what do you think here? Jackets, Canes.
Yeah, so we're looking at it not as high pace, but I mean Carolina is high pace in terms of they're just constantly shooting the puck all the time. And so for me, right away, immediately, I am hammering Merzlikins over 27.5 saves. I look at that and I think he might have 35 saves tonight for Columbus to have a chance, because when they're down, Carolina's flurry chances, which is shots that come back to back to back to back to back, they're the best team in the NHL at generating them. And so if we are going along the lines of, we think this might be a little bit of a trap game. We think Columbus is playing pretty well right now, and they have an opportunity to have the lead. There's a pretty decent chance that Carolina puts up 40 shots, including 20 in the third period type of situation. So I really like the Merzlikins over 27.5 saves. My only fear with that would be that he gets pulled. But outside of, like, I think if you don't think he's going to get pulled, you think he's probably going to be pretty decent, I think you could take that number. One thing I'll point out, if Kirill Marchenko is in, he's auto bet against Carolina for me. That's a guy that is generating a ton of scoring chances. He gets to the dirty areas. He's one of the few kind of bigger guys that Carolina seems to have trouble managing if your name is not Jacob Slavin. So I think that that's a good spot. If he's not, Charlie Coyle is a guy, he's generated the second most scoring chances in the last 10 games at even strength for the Columbus Blue Jackets. This is a guy who may get some elevated ice time. He's a guy that Rick Bowness seems to really, really like and lean on. There's an empty net goal play here. There is an opportunity if for him to move up and get more power play time if Marchenko is out of the lineup. There's a ton of different scenarios where he's going to get a scoring chances. So a Charlie Coyle point probably is the safer bet. But Charlie Coyle is creating, and I think that's worth noting. But I look at this and I go, this is a shots galore for the Carolina Hurricanes, and these are two teams that like to score a lot and two goalies that like to play dodgeball. And so when you start looking at points, you can look further down the lineup of guys who may get an opportunity, and that's Charlie Coyle for me. I don't think that the value on a guy like Aho or Jarvis or any of those guys, even for 2 points, is particularly high. I think you'd have to go a little bit further down, and so at that point, just give me the 1 point and I'll go with it from there.
I got a question. When you two looking at your models, especially with a team like Carolina, do you also kind of look also at, the shot charts from previous games? Because we've said this with Carolina. There's some nights where, you look at their shot charts and everything's high danger right around the crease. It's tight. There's other nights where their shot chart looks like Stevie Wonder playing darts. So do you kind of, use that eye test in a sense to gauge and go along with your numbers as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I saw somebody point out Jackson Blake. He ranks 11th in the last 10 games in scoring chances created. That is absolutely, and Ian and I were talking about him being my bargain bin guy, but he's got throttled down a little bit. Alex, to answer your question, we have a feature on the site that actually allows you to see the heat maps of not only like where players are taking shots from, but where teams are taking shots from and where they're giving them up from. So what I like to do usually, like in a situation like this, I'll go and I'll see, okay, where's Columbus giving up shots from? Where's Carolina going? And then I will start to compare. So where is Carolina giving up the shots to Kirill Marchenko? Where are they giving up the shots? Where is Columbus giving up shots to Seth Jarvis? Things like that. And if there's a match, I'll look at it. And I'll also, I built this tool using that exactly. And it's called matchup analysis. And basically what it does is it takes each team and compares where they attack and where they give up shots to the other teams, where they attack and where they give up shots over the last 10 games. And it determines if there is a mismatch. And if there is a mismatch, where the advantage is and what players would benefit from that. And so that's where I really look to. Everything changes like night to night, but the sample size of 10 games gives you a pretty good idea of where a team is at right now. And so that's kind of where I like to go with it.
Yeah. Cool. And as I always say, it's in a long season. Doesn't matter if it's hockey, basketball, baseball, the really long seasons where they play every day or almost every day. You want to zone in on that current form. The full season numbers won't really be a great current accurate picture of what's going on. You obviously want to look at last 5 games, last 10 days. Current form is very important to be aware of that, no question. As far as props, Ehlers. I mean, he scored in back-to-back games here for actually Svechnikov that has. Ehlers scored last game, but he scored in 4 of the last 5 games for the Carolina Hurricanes. We've talked about how he's getting more and more comfortable. So, as far as a goal prop there for me with Ehlers, to me is definitely someone to look at. Again, there's some injuries for Columbus. Olivier, Voronkov, Lundestrom, Marchment, of course. Dayton Severson on the blue line. He's a game-time decision, though, Marchment. So he has not been ruled out yet for this game. So there's still a chance that Mushy, as they call him. Mason Marchment will play here tonight for the Columbus Blue Jackets. All right, Buffalo and Ottawa. We've got Ottawa minus 120, home favorite, 6.5 the total. I took Ottawa against Tampa. They got off to that great start, up 2-0. They didn't score after that. They lose 4-2. I took them against Florida because I said, hey, look, decimated Florida team. You've had 2 days off after the loss against Tampa. And look, that's another thing why I liked Ottawa the other night. Rest at this time of year is rarely afforded these teams to have multiple days off in this condensed schedule where teams are playing so many games. And Ottawa had those 2 days off, and they ended up just coming out so freaking utter garbage in that first period against Florida. Allmark was not ready. The blue line was horrific, and they were down 5-0 to still a depleted Florida team. And after that, I said, we're going to stay away from Ottawa for a bit right now. And to make matters worse, their blue line's depleted. They got upwards of 5 defensemen out, and nobody's back tonight against Buffalo. I want to point that out. They were still hoping Jake Sanderson would be back tonight. That's not the case. Thomas Chabot's out indefinitely. Nick Jensen's out indefinitely. Dennis Gilbert's out indefinitely. And now to make matters worse, one of the Belleville Senators that you just called up to fill the void on the blue line, Carter Yakimchuk, suffered a concussion last game against Florida. He's out. So now you got to call up someone else with Yakimchuk, one of your other call-ups now dinged up, not playing. Cameron Crotty is going to come up and fill the void and be the 6th defenseman here tonight from Belleville. I mean, this blue line is just a mash unit right now. It's very, very hard for me to trust them. Could we see urgency for Ottawa right now tonight? Yes. I mean, they're desperate for points. But you don't think Buffalo's coming to play? The Buffalo Sabres have the chance tonight with a win to clinch their first playoff spot in 14 seasons and end this 14-year playoff drought without being in the playoffs. Tonight's the night they can make it official, the Buffalo Sabres, that after 14 long, disastrous, agonizing years, miserable years, that they could finally be back in the playoffs officially if they win tonight. So Buffalo's coming to play. Sabres are past for me. But with my luck with Ottawa lately, I lose 2 in a row with them, backing them. I know the moment I bet Buffalo tonight, watch Ottawa win. And I kind of feel like if I bet Ottawa, watch Buffalo win. So I'm staying off a side. I think there could be some goals here. I think Ottawa is overpassed for me with their totals, with this blue line just totally devastated right now and shorthanded and depleted as it is. Maybe a Sabres team total over if you don't want to take the money line. How do they keep Buffalo off the scoreboard? And Allmark's going to start. It's a bounce back spot for him. But do you trust him right now? And this blue line in front of him? Not sure I do. So I would probably look more toward overs. I did bet some over 6.5 here. I don't hate the Buffalo team total over either, but I'm going to look more toward that full game. I think Ottawa could score a bit. UPL is going to be a net for Buffalo. Lindy Ruff is kind of committed, more to him lately because he's played well and he started to stick out above Alex Lyon of late and be better. But he has been a little bit worse not so much lately. He's been good on the road lately, but I know earlier in the season he was better at home than on the road. So I do think Ottawa might be able to score some goals too tonight. Alex, what do you think here, Buffalo, Ottawa?
Tonight is the night. Real Deal Prime, Tim Earl, all you Sabres fans, get your beer and your champagne chilled and ready. I think they clinch a playoff spot tonight. And who better to do it against than Linus Ullmark, who was Buffalo's goalie, the guy that really kind of kept them afloat when they were just absolute dog shit of a franchise and of a team. And for them to finally make this turnaround and be able to pepper him and get some goals against him, I think that would be kind of the fitting way for Buffalo to officially get back in the playoffs after what's been a extremely, like I said, long and arduous drought. So give me the Sabres here at even money. It's the only play I got.
All right, Buffalo plus 100 for Alex. Rachel, what do you think here? Sabres Sens.
Yeah, there is, I don't know if any of you have scrolled Twitter over the last 24 hours, but nothing like dropping a nuke in your dressing room as you're going into a playoff race. Like there is my hockey brain, never mind the numbers, my hockey brain having worked for a team, there is no way you could convince me to put any dimes, pennies, nickels on the Ottawa Senators right now. That dressing room, it cannot be a fun place to be right now. And yes, Brady Tkachuk has the 3rd most scoring chances in the last 10 games in the entire National Hockey League. So if you think there's going to be goals, that's probably the guy. Having said that, he's also the guy that dropped the nuke in his dressing room. And so I think we're kind of in a scenario where that's a no bet for me. There's really no scenario where you could find me betting on the Ottawa Senators. And something to note, the Sens were one of the top team. I believe they were actually first overall until the beginning of March. And since the beginning of March, they have defensively, because of their injuries and whatever is going on in that locker room, they're now down to 9th in my expected goals model. And so that means that they've had a real bad month, to say the least. And they've had some really good games. And so the games that they're bad, they're really bad. And when you are trotting out
like a certain
dudes who
Florida
have
game the
played-
other night, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like when you're trotting out dudes who have played in the ECHL recently, that's probably not a good thing. So I look at this. Zach Benson is leading the Sabres in even strength scoring chances over the last 10 games for the Buffalo Sabres. The other guy who is up there and who seems to perform well against the Ottawa Senators is Rasmus Dahlin. That's the guy that's the captain. And given what's on the line for the Sabres tonight, it kind of feels like he's going to have a big game. He has 65 shot attempts in his last 10 games. That's preposterous. It's a lot. And so I look at him. I like his shots on goal total. I love a Zach Benson goal, point, whatever you want to call it. Go either way with it. I think that in order for Ottawa to keep up with Buffalo right now, they're going to have to play at a pace that they're uncomfortable playing at. And the problem that Ottawa is going to have with that is their top 3 puck moving defensemen organizationally are out. That's Thomas Chabot, Jake Sanderson, and Carter Yakimchuk. So that leaves Jordan Spence. And when I was at the Rangers Sens game last weekend, one thing I noticed is when Thomas Chabot went down, they played Jordan Spence for the entirety of the 2-minute power play. There was no second unit power play defenseman. That's something I think that's worth keeping an eye on, because if Ottawa is going to score, Jordan Spence is going to be a guy that is going to be on the ice for potentially 25 minutes tonight. And so they're going to score. He's probably bound to be creating some level of scoring chance for them. And the power play note, I think, is a worthy thing to point out, because that's where you have the most opportunity to score. So those are the bets I would look at. I'd look at Rasmus Dahlin, I'd look at Jordan Spence, and I would look at Zach Benson. If you really think Ottawa's going to score, then Brady Tkachuk is the guy that is leaps and bounds ahead of everybody in terms of his creation.
You can get Jordan Spence a power play point at FanDuel plus 370.
That's a pretty good price there. That's a great point. And I noticed it just watching the last couple of games. Like, they have no power play quarterbacks left. Sanderson and Chabot have been it all season for them, and they're trying to plug Spence into that role, and there's nobody else they trust. So what Rachel said is spot on. He's playing like the whole power play right now, Jordan Spence, for this Senators team, because there's no one else they trust right now. So that's exactly why Spence props, for sure. He's getting the ice time. He's going to be playing most, if not the entire power play for the Sens right now. Yeah, so it makes a ton of sense. I'm going to go to Peyton Krebs and Jordan Spence. Jordan Spence has scored in back-to-back games, and you can get plus 700 for him to find the back of the net tonight. Peyton Krebs has scored in 2 straight games for Buffalo. We've talked about all along, he's been with Thompson, with the big guy, Tage, on the top line. So there's been good value with him on the top line. So, plus 550, for Peyton Krebs is probably a good bet as well. He's scored in back-to-back games. Benson is someone I cashed a bargain bin special with against Boston last week. He scored one of the goals in that game. So, no argument as far as a Zach Benson look either on the Buffalo side. I got to go to the well with the 2 former players as well. The former player angle on both sides. Give me Dylan Cousins for Ottawa. Give me Josh Norris. And Norris has actually been, even though Buffalo's had a great season and great run, and they've been winning games lately, I actually think Josh Norris could elevate a little bit more. I think there's another gear he can get to. He's been a little bit quiet at times lately for the Sabres. No better time than facing your old team tonight, maybe, for Josh Norris to come alive here for the Sabres. So Norris for the Sabres, Cousins for the Senators, as far as looking at props and the former player angle there. All right, Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay. We got Tampa Bay minus 170 home favorites, 6.5 the total. It did lose last game. I blame those spineless, gutless, useless Detroit Red Wings for that. 5-1 Pittsburgh the other night. If we get at least one more goal out of Detroit, that game goes over 6.5. It is still 13-2 or 12-2 rather, to the over for the Pittsburgh Penguins in their last 14 games. I think I'm going to keep riding it one more time. We're not out till we lose 2. It's the bumper stumpers angle, so I did bet over 6.5 here. This also could be one of those games where, by the way, I didn't mention this in the Buffalo-Ottawa game. I like first period both teams to score in Buffalo-Ottawa. Urgency for Ottawa. I think Buffalo against that depleted defensive Ottawa gets on the board early as well. So I think there's a chance we get both teams finding the back of the net in the opening period there. Sabres and Senators. I like that. I kind of like it here as well with Pittsburgh and Tampa. You got Tampa Bay off the loss against Montreal. And look, Dobis was not good. He was great in that game against Tampa Bay on Sunday. I didn't think the Lightning played that poorly. They just ran into a goaltender that was spectacular in that loss against the Montreal Canadiens. I don't want to lay this price against Pittsburgh right now. They're showing me some gumption. They've got, they're trying to make the playoffs. That was a pair of really, really gutsy back-to-back wins. They thumped the Islanders. We thought Detroit had a big rest advantage, situational advantage, catching Pittsburgh on the back-to-back, and the Penguins still ended up getting the victory 5-1. It looks like tonight for goaltending in this game, it is Skinner for the Pittsburgh Penguins and Andrei Vasilevsky for the Tampa Bay Lightning. If you like Pittsburgh, don't just bet money line. You should split it with team total. As Jonathan says, 35 of their 38 wins, they have scored at least 4 goals. So I agree with that. If you're going to take it, and I'm tempted to take a shot with Pittsburgh, but I don't always like backing against betting against Tampa Bay off a loss, and they are still trying to win a division, battling Buffalo for first in the Atlantic right now. But I definitely like first period, both teams to score, and I like the overs in this game for sure. Lean Pittsburgh. Not sure if I'll go ahead and get it, pull the trigger on it, though. Alex, what do you think? Penguins, Lightning.
Yeah, plus 152. I'll grab a piece of that. Both teams to score in the first as well. But this is one where I like the draw quite a bit. Plus 340 was the price I got over at Bet Online. You look at the situation where Pittsburgh's trying to, at least be able to claim home ice in the first round. Tampa Bay still have a outside shot at winning that division, but if not, getting home ice in that first round matchup against more than likely Montreal would be imperative for them as well. So this is one where this is a tie game late. I don't see anything crazy happening. To see it kind of coming to a halt and going past regulation at plus 340. That's a fantastic price.
They did go past regulation the last meeting earlier this year, by the way, Lightning and Penguins. And then the one before that was a 1-goal game. Didn't go to overtime, but it was a 1-goal game, which means it came very close to going to overtime. Yeah, I'm looking at Tampa Bay, 1-0, 2-0, 3-0. Yeah, they're 4-0 off a loss. The last 4 times they've lost, they've bounced back, and they've won the next game. So that's why I'm a little bit lukewarm. I like the price. I like what I'm seeing out of Pittsburgh. I lean to them, but I'm a little lukewarm to actually go ahead and take Pittsburgh, knowing Tampa's off that loss to Montreal the other night. Rachel, how do you see this one, Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay?
Yeah, I think this has potential to actually be one of the games of the night in terms of quality of hockey. We're talking about 2 teams that are capable of playing some really high-end hockey with some superstars. And so when you look at that, Anthony Cirelli is actually number 1 in scoring chances in the entire NHL over the last 10 games. The guy, he's just ice cold. And so I'm going to continue to go back to the well with Anthony Cirelli because his line is not nearly where it should be for the chances that he's creating in a situation where let's face it, they're playing a goaltender that has been very good for Pittsburgh. All 3 of us know that he could turn into a pumpkin at any given time. So I look at that and I go, I'm going to take the guy that's leading the NHL in scoring chances over the last 10 games and not even think twice about that. The other thing is Nikita Kucherov. He was not particularly good in their last game, which was a loss. And coming off of a game where Kucherov has a game score in the negative, he produces more than 2 points more than he doesn't. And so if you're giving me that at plus money, I will take Nikita Kucherov at 2+ points, especially in a game that we think that we're going to see a lot of goals here. I like your guys' shout on the draw. I think you're talking about 2 teams. John Cooper is experience galore. He knows that every point matters. And if it means milking it to get to overtime, then that is what it is. And then on the other side of it, you've got Evgeny Malkin and Sidney Crosby, who are professionals at getting games to overtime. And so I look at that, but the value for me on Pittsburgh isn't in a Malkin goal because, yes, he torches Vasilevsky. It's on Ricard Raquel. Ricard Raquel has generated the 4th most scoring chances for the Pittsburgh Penguins over the last
That makes sense because it seems like he's scoring almost every game. He's been a
exactly.
short-term
So that's
leader.
where the value is. And because Tampa is so depleted with injury, like he's going to get some favorable matchups because you have to respect Crosby and you have to respect Malkin. That leaves guys like Mantha, who is coming off of not only one of the hottest goal scorers in the NHL right now, but the guy just had a kid and dad's strength is a thing. And he's playing with Ricard Raquel. I like a combination of a Raquel Mantha 1 point each. That gets you plus money, depending on what book you're at on how much plus money you get. So I look at that. And then I'm also going to take a look at an Anthony Cirelli goal. I have to go back to the well with the guy who's creating the most.
And you know what's funny? You mentioned Cirelli, Rachel. I cashed a bargain bin, I think, a couple weeks ago. I think it was during the Alberta road trip. I was on Cirelli, friend. Cirelli at that moment was heating up a little bit. And he was generating, I think, a lot of chances back then. The puck was going in. You're saying that he's still generating a lot of those great chances. Now the puck's just not going in for him. So maybe there's a time for that worm to turn a little bit here for Anthony Cirelli if he's still generating those kind of opportunities. Yeah, it's a good prop game. You know, I do agree with that. I mean, Gensel has scored in 5 straight games. We have to go to the well. You mentioned Raquel. I mean, back-to-back games with a goal for the last 5. And Mantha, I'm on Mantha. It's a no-brainer right now with Anthony Mantha for Pittsburgh. I mean, he's plus 320 in that range. He scored in 3 straight games, 4 of the last 5, 5 of the last 10. He's been absolutely terrific for the Penguins. So, and credit to him. You know, it's a resurgence in his career. People were almost out on Anthony Mantha at times back in the Detroit days. And even with Washington, it was a little up and down for him. But, boy, has he got it going offensively right now for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So that's probably worth a shot as well as far as goal props. I think, too, you mentioned Cirelli, Rachel, Bjorkstrand, and Gonsalves as line mates because it's the second line. Probably a little bit of value there as well. All right, Detroit, Philadelphia, even money, minus 110, 5.5 the total. I'll keep this one brief. I don't want either. I don't want Detroit. It's Flyers or pass. The March record is damning for Detroit. Bad March 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Last year, the March record was terrible, or late in the season. I know we're into April now, but still, down the stretch, this team has spit the bit repeatedly, year after year. I'm done for now with Detroit after what I saw the other night against Pittsburgh. Don't want him. This is either Flyers or nothing in this game, but I'm on the draw here in this game. That's what I like. I think it's a good draw spot. Every point's valuable. I could see it being a tight game. So that's the only bet. 5.5 the total. It was a surprisingly high-scoring game with the Flyers. Knowing Rick Tocchet's probably going to want to see a little bit more of a tighter defensive effort. Erson's been very good lately, too. We've talked about how early in the season he was kind of a bet against goaltender, struggled. He's on a 5-start win streak now, and Tocchet's going back to Erson tonight. John Gibson once again in net for the Red Wings. So the draw, lean under for me. Alex, what do you think here with Detroit, Philly?
Yeah, this is a draw for me, but I like Philly in this spot as well. Like I said, Detroit's falling off a cliff, and, you love to see it for some of us. Give me Philly minus $1.07 is actually the price I got at Bet Online. I got the draw plus 310, and then I grabbed a little piece of Flyers to win an overtime or shootout and get that plus 500 over at FanDuel.
Good stuff. All right, Rachel, what about you? Red Wings, Flyers.
Yeah, there's some value here. According to Betalytics, we've got value on the Flyers. It's a 4-star bet in terms of the value that you're getting. We have the line like Alex at $1.07. So at $1.10, it goes down to 3-star value, but we have this line a little bit higher than that. And for all the reasons you laid out, right? The Flyers have been pretty good, and the Detroit Red Wings have been not enjoyable to watch in the month of March. Where I'm going to go, though, is Porter Martone. This is a kid who, through my draft model, through his draft year, watching him at Michigan State, this is a volume shooter. He's also one of the smartest offensive players of his generation. He was last year in the draft. I think he topped out. He was the smartest player in the draft. His 3+ shots on goal is a plus 140 at some books. I personally would ladder him up to 5, and he's going to be my bargain bin special tonight, plus 320 to score his first career NHL goal. He had 5 shots in his first game. Rick Tocchet is giving him an opportunity, and part of the reason he's getting that opportunity is because he's big and he skates and he isn't irresponsible. And so I think when you look at that and you're physically engaged, that's exactly the type of hockey Rick Tocchet wants you to play. And he's going to give you opportunities. And so I look at Porter Martone as a guy who is likely to benefit from not only playing some pretty good minutes, but also he's playing on a team that's desperate. His team just got out of the NCAA tournament. So there's some motivation here to get his NHL career off to a pretty good start. So I like the Philadelphia money line, but I'm all over Martone today. Just his regular shots line, his ladder up to 5. And I'm going to take a stab at the Porter Martone goal. I think he's exactly the kind of player that could kind of get a dirty goal here, and that'd be really good because you know how the Flyer, like a guy like Trevor Zegras, he's on the record saying that he likes getting new teammates goals. And so if Trevor Zegras and Porter Martone are on the ice together, you can be sure that Trevor Zegras is going to be looking for him.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to go back to the well with Martone as well as far as a goal prop. I took it against Washington, just his debut, knowing he was going to be power play 1, get the ice time, get the runway from Rick Tocchet right away to make an impact. And yeah, he didn't score, but he mentioned it, 5 shots on goal. And, you're still getting great value just to get over 2.5 shots here tonight for Porter Martone. So I agree with that. I agree with Jonathan with Couturier. And I'm going to go back to the well with Noah Cates as well for Philly. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say DraftKings plus 360, best price I'm seeing with Martone goal. So,
yeah, love that. Absolutely. And I do like Jonathan's shout on Owen Tippett as well. That's a guy, he's generating a ton of scoring chances of late, and it's not like Detroit is particularly staunch defensively. So I think if you're going to go with a guy who can really shoot the puck, that's Owen Tippett and Porter Martone are the guys. They can really shoot the puck, and it's dangerous, especially when you're giving up opportunities. Because if Mo Sider's not on the ice, there's really not a whole lot of defensive play happening.
Boring Bets is on to why I haven't bet. Like, I could only take Philadelphia tonight. I don't want Detroit. I'm not betting Detroit. Not interested. But Philly comes home. Detroit continues on the road. It is rapid revenge for Detroit because Detroit lost at home to Philadelphia on the Saturday night game on ABC. Situationals are Detroit. I agree with it, but I can't do it. The situationals were Detroit against Pittsburgh as well the other night. They shit the bed. They were awful. They were out of that game after the first period, 5-1.
It's been situational for Detroit for the last 2.5 weeks. So, yeah.
But I know the moment, this feels like one of those games too. I bet Philly and Detroit will win. This will be the night they show up. So, but yeah, Flyers or nothing. I don't want Detroit. If you bet them, good luck though. All right, next up, we've got Montreal and the New York Rangers. It is Montreal, as you would expect, pretty sizable road favorite here, minus 135 in this one, 6.5 the total in this game. The situationals are not necessarily with Montreal here in this game, but like at the same point in time, when you look at this situation here for Montreal, I love the way they're playing right now, the Habs. Jacob Fowler will start, not the red-hot Jakub Dobeš. I don't think that's a terrible thing. I think Fowler's very capable. He's been pretty good during this 6-game win streak that Montreal's been on. The Rangers have played better on this homestand, but before we get too carried away, Chicago, Florida, New Jersey, these 3 home wins for the New York Rangers, I don't think that's saying too much. I think that's more, okay, Rangers won those games, but those opponents have some issues right now. I still think there's some value here to move on the Habs. They're red hot. I've been on them 2 games in a row as a dog, Carolina and Tampa Bay, cashing both times. Now they are a favorite, but still not one of those scary home ice advantages in the NHL. And we know the Rangers, even with the last 3 home wins, this is a Rangers team that is still a dismal 12-25 at home. And you flip that around, Montreal is a very respectable 21-8-8 road record here in this one. So I'm on Montreal here, split with team total. Montreal money line minus 135, split with team total. Around it's actually over 3.5, or you could get a flat 3 on the team total as well at a couple of books like BetMGM and BetRivers if you're so inclined. But I split the money line and the team total over for Montreal, and I'm on probably this. I have to be on this full game over 6.5 too, simply because of the series history. Now I don't love it considering Montreal's defensive play, 2 or less allowed in 4 of the last 5. The goaltending from both guys, Fowler and Dobeš, has been outstanding. But it's hard to argue the series history. 9-1 to the over between the Habs and the Rangers. 9 straight overs in the series entering tonight. So I'm going to get in on it because of that. Over 6.5. Alex, Habs Rangers.
Yeah, I like the Habs here in regulation, plus 115. I might grab a little piece of that over 3.5, too, of the team total. I'm seeing a plus 104 at FanDuel. As far as that over, like I said, the trend makes sense, but this is one where I'd probably wait in game, see if you can, get a couple minutes of scoreless hockey, and this drops down to a 6, jump in from that atmosphere. But pregame, definitely liking Habs to win it within 60 and go with that team total over as well.
Yeah, good stuff. I mean, Goal Caulfield, because that's what we got to call him now. Goal Caulfield, 3 straight games with a goal. There's a couple. There's Suzuki, 2 straight games with a goal. Connor Sheary of the Rangers, believe it or not, has scored in back-to-back games. There could be a little bit of value there. I'm going to go to the well with Adam Sikora again for the Rangers. He's been impressive since he's been called up. So a couple goal props of interest for me. Rachel, what are you thinking here with Montreal, New York?
Yeah, this is the game I'm paying the most attention to because I am going to this game tonight. So I'm pretty excited. Anytime I can watch entertaining hockey being played, I am watching entertaining hockey. And the Montreal Canadiens are nothing but entertaining right now. So
That's
I look
been
at this.
debatable with the Rangers much of the year, but you can't say that about Montreal, right?
The goalie fight was kind of fun the other
true.
night.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
You did have that.
So there's a couple
Durkin and Markstrom. Yep.
Yeah, all player props for me in this. And I think something worth pointing out, Mika Zibanejad, when it comes to March production, is in the conversation with Nathan McKinnon, Leon Draisaitl, and Connor McDavid historically. The guy it's Mika March at this point. And so he's got 9 points in 13 games against the Habs, he has points in 9 of 13 games against the Habs. When you combine that with Mika March, he has a point in every single game he's played against the Habs in the month of March. His shots have gone over. He averages 3.62 shots in the last 13 games against the Habs. So I like that. He has been arguably like their best player for the last little while. The other guy I'll point out for a point is Adam Fox. He's got points in 9 of 12 against Montreal. He's playing much better offensive hockey of late. They're creating chances on the power play. And so I look at Adam Fox and I go, yep, that feels like a situation that I should be getting in on. So for me, I like to do a point stack parlay here. Like you pointed out, that is a trend that's too difficult to ignore. And while obviously Jacob Fowler is young, we don't have a ton of data on him. Until that trend starts to go away, and by go away, like you have to give me 3 straight games where you are well under 6 goals for me to believe that this is going to be anything. I think you need to pay attention to that. So I think a parlay that includes a Suzuki point, a Caulfield point, a Fox point, and a Zibanejad point is something I'd be interested in, because if we think it's going to go over, I find it very difficult to believe that the game could go over without those 4 guys getting a point. The other guy I'm going to shout out is Gabe Perreault. Gabe Perreault is a guy who's creating a ton of scoring chances.
I'm waiting for one of these damn things to go in, Rachel, for him. You're right. I've seen it too. And it's like, geez, this guy's got to score sooner or later. Does he not?
Exactly. And maybe not for a goal, but his line mates are Mika Zibanejad and the French-Canadian Alexis Lafreniere. And they have been by far the Rangers' best line for quite a while now, since Perreault basically came into the league. And so I look at that and I go, I think that there's some significant value on a Perreault point. I think you really need to take a look at Alexis Lafreniere scoring a goal, because he's also generating scoring opportunities. He's getting power play time. And I watch him, I watch him pretty closely when I'm at games, because I don't have to follow the TV camera. The guy is in the right spots, and he is, I would say 2 or 3 times a game, he is a foot and a half from picking off a pass that would see him have a breakaway. And I think that with the risk profile that Montreal has had of late in terms of the passes that they make, there's a chance that happens. And that line is really clicking here. So if you don't want to go the full stack, I think you could go a scenario where you go Zibanejad Lafreniere point. You could go Perreault point on its own. There are so many different things that you could attack here. And I would say one of my best bets of the night is the Igor Shesterkin saves. He's highly unlikely to be pulled in an original 6 game. Mike Sullivan does not like to do that. He is on record saying that, which I'm not sure why you would announce that, but okay, carry on. Igor Shesterkin, over, I believe his line's 26.5. I would take that simply because Montreal's generating a ton of shots in the last 10 games. They're a high-paced team over the last, I would call it 2 weeks specifically. And in a situation like this where they need the points, they're going to want to be generating scoring opportunities. Igor is going to have to be really good the whole night.
Like I said,
for Bear Commander, go Bears. Suzuki, Caulfield, Zibanejad, Fox are the 4.
There we go. Oh, for the parlay. Yeah, I like that parlay. Yeah. We're all about creative bets. Like last night, we had first period, Vancouver goal in the first period. We don't just bet straight money lines or totals on this show. We get creative, and definitely, like I said, that's one way to get creative. If you want to, if the price is too expensive on a certain player just to get a point, parlay them together. That's definitely an option you've got, and that's Rachel's approach there with those 4 that she mentioned in the Habs Rangers game. All right, next up, we've got Washington, New Jersey, even money -110 both sides, 6.5 the total in this game. I could be walking into a big old bear trap here on this one, but I think it's dirt cheap for the Caps. I like the way the Caps are going right now. Jersey lost to the Rangers, coming off the fight-filled game. Obviously, the big fight with Shesterkin and with Markstrom in that one. That got everybody's juices flowing a little bit. Logan Thompson's confirmed in net. He's a bet on goalie all the way right now, the way he's been playing for the Capitals. I'm just going to take Washington here. -110 is trust this push for the playoffs. And they were the one team that's actually stepping up the last few games and being able to deal with the pressure and win games that you need to win. And obviously, they still have a lot of work to do, the Capitals. Still 3 points back of Columbus for that final wild card spot. But yeah, I'm on Washington here, -110. The only bet for me, I'm not on a New Jersey over for the first time in a while because Washington wants to play low and slow. And I don't think they're going to want another higher scoring, high event game like the Philly game the other night. So I'm not on an over this time with New Jersey, but I am on the Caps here, -110. Alex, Capitals, Devils.
This is my first pass of the night, and this is the Caps have been a team that's burned me where I've tried to jump on them and back them, and like I said, New Jersey, we've been we were running hot with those overs. That's kind of cooled down, and I wonder with that loss with the Rangers, that kind of a spirited game, could this now start to kind of be the beginning of the end for the Devils? Could we start to see them just kind of curl up and call this a season? And like I said, so I would lean toward Capitals. I'll watch this game, maybe jump in live, but nothing for me pregame.
All right, Rachel, how about you? Caps, Devils.
Yeah, I think there's 2 things worth pointing out here outside of what's already been pointed out. Tom Wilson and Timo Meier are both in the top 20 in scoring chances created across the league. And in particular, Timo Meier is, just like we talked about with Mika Zibanejad, for whatever reason, when he hits the month of March, this man turns into like a ridiculous superstar point producer. So I look at that and I go, if you think that the New Jersey Devils are going to score goals tonight, I am not so certain of that. I think Timo Meier is my guy. However, I would say Tom Wilson is a guy that he is constantly a thorn in the side of the New Jersey Devils. I remember when I worked for the Devils playing against this guy, it's like, could he just go away, please? Because he always seems to have a gear against the Devils, and you're watching him on the ice and you're like, why is he always there? Why are you always in the way? Why are you always at the net front? You're in the middle of everything.
Stirring up
you're
shit.
A pain in the ass.
Usual Tom
exactly.
Wilson. Yeah.
So I like a Tom Wilson point here tonight. And the thing with Jack Hughes is when Jack is on, you could ladder his shots all the way up to like 8 or 9. And you would get massive plus money for that. The problem that you have is right now, Jack Hughes is very inconsistent. And so with the value on the bets, I don't think you can take a Jack Hughes line right now because it's not trustworthy. And you don't know if he's going to have 2 shots on goal at this point, never mind his line of 4. And so I look at that and I go, yeah, I got to stay away from that. If anything, I think the saves number for the Devils, I didn't have a chance to look at who's been confirmed. I think that saves number is live because when you look at Sheldon Keefe's
Jake Allen
hockey,
is confirmed, and it's over 22.5 saves for him tonight.
I would look at that. I would probably take a serious look at that because when you look at Sheldon Keefe hockey and growing up in Toronto, I saw a lot of it. We're talking about a guy who is very much keep the puck, recover it, get it back to the net. do it again, do it again, and do it again. And Logan Thompson has been absolutely fantastic, and he's seeing the puck really well. And the Capitals, instead of being a heavy shot blocking team, and they do have guys that block shots, they're very much under Spencer Carberry, a team that's clear guys out of the way and let their goaltenders see the puck, which is when Logan Thompson is at his best. And so I think we kind of see a scenario where you've got Sheldon Keefe hockey also playing into the sense of the Devils are going to be shooting a lot, but you've got Washington hockey in the sense of 22.5 is not nearly high enough. And I think they're going to be in a scenario where if the Devils are ahead, it's going to be Jacob Chikrin teeing off. It's going to be Tom Wilson teeing off. Alex Ovechkin's going to be teeing off. Everybody is going to be teeing off because Spencer Carberry's viewpoint, very similar to Sheldon Keefe's, is when we're behind, everything goes to the net. I think there is a scenario where both goalies hit the total over on their saves tonight.
All right, making a case for both. A lot of shots tonight, basically, getting to both of these goalies, Thompson and Allen, confirmed as far as this game. As far as props, just a couple for me. Connor Brown, we're riding the Connor Brown wave here. Back-to-back games with a goal, plus 320, good price for New Jersey. But I like Ryan Leonard, Chikrin, as well, maybe for the Capitals. I know Rachel mentioned Tom Wilson always seems to make an impact against the Devils. But yeah, Leonard for the Caps and Brown for the Devils are my favorite goal props there. All right, Vancouver and Minnesota down the road from Alex. Their Grand Casino Arena. Minnesota minus 400 home favorite, 6.5 the total. Doesn't this feel like a Vancouver gets buried spot after the huge upset win against Colorado last night? Now you're on a back-to-back, no rest, back-to-back. Minnesota rested, and the problem is Minnesota's kind of playing out the string. What do they have to play for? They're probably not catching Dallas. They're not going to win the division either. They're locked into this third spot in the Central, so it's not the utmost sense of urgency necessarily for the Wild. But it is still a very, very dubious spot here for Vancouver. That said, the angle, and we talk about system plays, and, I don't make the models like Rachel does the model, analysis, but we do create, we see manual systems that we're able to figure out just from watching and tracking everything. And one of our systems, and I don't know if Rachel was aware of it, but I'll mention it, is we like to bet the first period goal for a big underdog against a minus 300 or greater favorite. And especially in this case, a minus 400 favorite. Look at last night, Vancouver, Colorado, perfect example. So, and Vancouver's been very good in these spots as these massive dogs against minus 300, minus 400 favorites scoring in that opening stanza. So I'm going to take Vancouver, goal in the first period. That's it. That's it for me with Vancouver. I think the rest of the game, we could see Minnesota just run away and hide and really drill them. I think when you look at Minnesota, their team total here is 4.5 at plus money. I don't mind looking at that. You maybe look at this as an alt team total over spot, 5.5, maybe 6.5 for Minnesota. Now, again, I'm a little concerned that it's not a 2 points that's the be all end all for Minnesota tonight with where they're at in the standings, but it is still such a very, very dubious spot for Vancouver off a huge upset against the number one team in the West, Colorado, and now having to play a back-to-back. And they're going to have Topo Gigio, as we call him, Tolopilo, in net for the Vancouver Canucks. So tough spot for him. So I'm going to go Vancouver, goal in the first period, and then I'm going to pivot and go Minnesota with a couple of alt team totals here, over 4.5. Well, that's the regular team total, and a little alt team total over 5.5 at a bigger plus price for Minnesota as well. And yes, Besser from Minnesota, that's a great point. He scored, obviously, the hat trick last night, and we bet the live hat trick with Besser last night. So maybe he's the one Vancouver player you're going to want to target to keep his little run going tonight. Alex, what do you think here, Canucks Wild?
Yeah, I'm running right back to what we had in Vancouver last night. Goal in the first period and first goal first period. You can still get at FanDuel a plus 230 with that number. We hit both of those, and then we can maybe look for Minnesota team total or regulation money line in game at a cheaper price. Wild need 2 points here to secure their playoff spot. Do that in front of their home fans. And this is a Wild team. Like I've said, they need to get their shit together, in my opinion. They have not played the best of hockey. We know how things happen once it turns into late April and it's the first round of the playoffs. They pretty much disintegrate in the dust, and then they're playing golf the rest of the way. I do think that still happens, but you need to get some momentum going. Dallas, doesn't really have that much momentum. Colorado, especially after the comments from Bednar, that should wake up everybody in the West. And he's saying, if we're not ready, this could be a short run. Well, now that brings everybody else up to the forefront, especially if you're in the Central, and all you got to do is beat Dallas, and maybe you're playing a team that pulls off a giant upset of Colorado. So if you're Minnesota, get it together, get a win at home against the worst team in the league. This should be one where they, like I said, get over that team total of 4.5, 5.5. But I'm not playing any of that right now. I'm going with Vancouver to score first, Vancouver to score in the first period, and then look for anything Minnesota in game.
One thing to point out, too, is let's say Minnesota's a little slow to start early. You could get a better adjusted in-game team total on Minnesota. Then maybe they start slow and you'll see that thing drop to 2.5 or 3.5. And maybe Vancouver peters out as the game goes on. Because one thing I want to point out, too, before Rachel's thoughts, this is a massive rest advantage for Minnesota. And it's not something you see at this time of year very often. This condensed schedule, we're shoehorning this damn schedule because of the Olympics earlier this year. Everyone playing tons of games in a short period of time. It has been rare to find a spot in the schedule where a team like Minnesota tonight has 4 days off before the game. They haven't played since Saturday when they lost in Boston. So they've been off Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's a huge rest advantage for Minnesota. Let's see if they take advantage of it. Rachel, what do you think here?
Yeah, for obvious reasons, this is the team I know pretty well. And sort of how everything in that dressing room functions. So I look at this, Brock Besser, the guy, when he's hot, he's hot. Like I've never seen anything like it in terms of working closely with a player. When that guy can put the puck in the net and he's feeling good, the puck goes in the net. And so I like Brock to score tonight. I think that's a pretty good bet. The other guy I think we should probably make note of here for Vancouver is Marco Rossi. Bill Guerin was not exactly secretive in his dislike for Marco Rossi. And I think that there is a little bit of a revenge narrative here in terms of Marco Rossi wanting to show Bill Guerin, hey, I'm not as bad as you think I am. And who is playing with Brock Besser? Yes, that would be Marco Rossi. And so I think that we have a scenario here where either guy, if Vancouver is going to score and potentially win, and at plus 340, that's asking a lot, especially after last night. But I think Marco Rossi's worth some coin here. A couple guys on Minnesota I'm going to point out. Matt Zuccarello and Ryan Hartman are both in the top 10 in the last 10 games played for scoring chances created. And obviously, Ryan Hartman's getting that elevated ice time, and he's doing a lot with it. Matt Zuccarello's always a guy that creates, right? Whether it's like assist opportunities or goal opportunities. This is a guy who is always kind of in the middle of it. He plays significant power play time, and Kaprizov's been really cold, which is probably why Minnesota hasn't been as great of late. And so I think you need to look at those two players. Vancouver gives up a ton from a defensive standpoint. They are the antithesis of the Ottawa Senators from a defensive standpoint. And so you look at that, they gave up a ton last night. It's just that they also scored a ton. I like the under in this game. I think that favors Minnesota, but if, like I said right off the top, if you're going anywhere near a minus 300 or worse line, please don't do that. But my best bet of the night, Mr. Money on the board, Quinn Hughes. He is probably going to have $10,000 on the board tonight, if we're being honest, or somewhere in that neighborhood. Quinn Hughes over his shots total. Quinn Hughes probably a ladder. Quinn Hughes point. Quinn Hughes power play point. Quinn Hughes everything.
Everything Quinn Hughes. Every prop you can think of. Quinn Hughes.
Quinn
yeah,
Hughes.
Basically.
Yeah. I don't think Quinn's going to score. But like, if I wake up tomorrow morning and because I'm probably going to bed before like the third period starts, if I wake up tomorrow morning and see that Quinn Hughes had 3 points last night, like I'm not going to be all that surprised. Like I'm really not. And so I think that you got to go the Quinn Hughes angle. And if you're going to play a money line, have to sort of hold your nose and play Vancouver here.
Or do what we're doing. Just trust them to score early, and then maybe they'll fritter away after that, which I think
exactly. And here's what I would say, because I've seen this with my own eyes very, very often. If Vancouver is leading going into the third period, and it's like a game, like it's 3-1 or it's 3-2, like it's a 1 or 2 goal lead, you smash the Minnesota Wild. Like, you absolutely smash them. There is no team in the NHL of the last 3 years that is worse on the second half of a back-to-back going into the third period with the lead than the Vancouver Canucks. I believe the last time I checked, they'd only won twice. So if you see Minnesota trailing by 1 or 2 goals going into the third period, that is a smash spot on the money line.
There you go. So really bad protecting leads on a back-to-back going into the third period.
Live target alert for sure. Yeah.
That is a great
Yeah.
piece of stats and a piece of information to pass along there, and it makes sense now that I think about it. Yeah, but for me, I'm going to go to Ryan Hartman. He's a streaky bastard. We've said that for a long time, and now he's scored in back-to-back games all of a sudden after a drought. Besser makes sense. He scored back-to-back back in his home state. Anything Quinn Hughes, yeah, all those props make sense. All right, Winnipeg, Dallas. Dallas minus 160, home favorites, 5.5 the total. I do see Matty Robb in the chat. I'm on Winnipeg here in this one. I'm on Winnipeg here. Dallas is just, I don't like what I'm seeing. No urgency right now from them. They lose to the Bruins the other night. Just get this string in the regular season done with. They're not catching Colorado. They're probably not getting caught from behind by Minnesota either. Now, you don't want to lose every game the rest of the way, and they are 1-6 now in their last 7 games, and the only win was at Pittsburgh. But, you look at Winnipeg, 4 of their last 5. They're thriving under this, quote unquote pressure of trying to make the playoffs. We'll see if that can continue. Now, they haven't had success against Dallas. That's the one thing I will say. This year, Dallas is 3-0 head-to-head against Winnipeg. But the last meeting did go to overtime. I think it'll be a close game. Give me the Jets. Give me the draw. I think it's a great draw spot, too, because we did see overtime in Dallas the last time they played February. Dallas won 4-3. So it's going to be dog and draw for me in this game. Hellebuck and Ottinger are confirmed in net. So the U.S. Olympic teammates going head-to-head here tonight. Alex, what do you think? Jets, Stars.
I feel like I always bet the draw when these two teams play, and it's because they play a lot of close games against one another. And did cash with it in that last meeting. It just feels like it's a spot where, okay, Dallas, except, play out the string, make sure no one gets hurt, get ready for round 1, game 1. Winnipeg, you need every point possible. So I will be on the draw. I don't know if Winnipeg, if they're going to be able to really take care of business and get that second point, but I trust them enough to be able to hang around and take this past 60.
Good stuff there. All right, Rachel, what do you think here with Winnipeg, Dallas?
This is probably the game of the night where I'm looking at arbitrage opportunities. And I'll do the in-game live arbitrage. So I am all over Winnipeg to start. Dallas, I don't know why, but they keep giving up the first goal. It's like they forget when the start time is, and they give up that first goal. And for a dog, that's huge. One thing I'll point out, Dallas's goal differential in the last 10 games is -7. Winnipeg's is +2. So Winnipeg's has been, they've been the better team overall, not just goal differential. Like from an analytics perspective, from an advanced stats perspective, they have been the better team. So what I would do here is I would play Winnipeg as the live dog +140. And then inevitably, because more than likely, I think it's 80% of the time, when Winnipeg scores on Dallas first, I would then turn around and go, okay, are the Dallas Stars at plus money? Because then I'll turn around and take that. And then you've got both teams at plus money.
So basically, you do what Matt Robinson does anytime Dallas trails. He always loves betting Dallas live. And it makes sense. They do. They've had a lot of comeback victories, and they have given up the first goal a lot. Yeah, it's great.
Exactly. So there's that. The other bet, and it's not really a bet that a lot of people pay attention to, but I noticed some of your guys really like it. The block shots. Thomas Harley blocked shot machine this year. So I like that. For whatever reason, I was talking to somebody in Winnipeg, and one of the frustrations he voiced to me was that they cannot stop hitting shin pads. And I'm like, oh, interesting. Okay. Didn't realize that was the problem. And then I went and watched like a few of Winnipeg's games. They hit shin pads like you hand out candy on Halloween. Like, it is really something, the way that they can do that. And so I like a Thomas Harley block shot. I think at Bet365, his 3+ block shots was playing +250 this morning. That is the block shots lines on sportsbooks are the most mispriced lines you will find in hockey. So I would really take a look at that.
I probably should explore them more. I bet some in the playoffs. I never bet any in the regular season, but I think there's truth to that. You probably get great value. with
It
block shots.
took less than 2 weeks for me to get banned on Bet365 from betting on block shots. And I was like, I had to email and be like, I wouldn't win this much money if you priced them correctly. Like, this is not my problem. So I think when you look at the Thomas Harley angle, that is where you need to look. But from an arbitrage perspective, bet on Winnipeg, bet on the first goal for me. And then if that does happen, then I'm all over Dallas.
Turn around. We got some kind
Plus
words from Michael.
155 for first goal.
Oh, thanks,
first period.
Michael.
Very kind. Yeah, Michael. She's doing a great job. Yeah, and I knew she, and once we arranged it for her to be on today, I knew she had tons of great, stats, and of course, and that's why it was
Peanut Gallery has been very calm and showing you a lot of love, so that says a lot.
I appreciate all of you because I'm sure all of you can imagine some of the comments that I get online are really whack.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm
They're
sure.
not always
I'm
the nicest and friendliest and kindest. Let's put it that way. And we get that too. It's not everything is sunshine, roses, and lollipops for Ian Cameron either when it comes to public comments either. So we're all there. We've all been there.
The best is like, please don't DM my husband because that's weird.
Yeah, that's just a little bit. I agree with that. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. All right, Chicago, Edmonton. We got Edmonton minus 220 home favorite, 6.5 the total here in this one. I don't even care that Edmonton's fighting for the division right now. And I know they're playing well. And that was a Connor Ingram shutout. They beat Seattle earlier this week. You love to see that. As soon as I saw Tristan Jarry confirmed in net, I bet Chicago money line. I bet Chicago team total over in this hockey game. I have zero confidence, in Tristan Jarhead right now. Jarry, as I've been calling him. I had to call him that when he struggles. It's not been good at all from Jarry right now. And I like this over 6.5 as well. I find that Edmonton has become a team where Ingram's the under goalie, Jarry's the over goalie. Their games are starting to go under with Ingram, and they're still going over when Jarry is in net. That is what I have kind of noticed lately. So I think I'm going to take a shot with the dog here. I know Edmonton's playing for the division. They saw Anaheim lose in regulation last night. They'll be all pumped up, 2 points back. I don't trust their goalie, not one bit. So give me Blackhawks money line and team total over, and I like that over 6.5, and I might even get in on first period over if it drops live during the game. Alex, what do you think here, Blackhawks Oilers?
Well, I sure hope you're right about the Hawks winning this game. I'm a little bit hesitant on that. I do like this team total over 2.5. You get a minus $1.18 at FanDuel with that price. I would look for the over by effect the end game. Even with that 6.5, I think this may be one where we could see it be a little slow early, and we can get 6.5 down to 6, get that 1.5 to a better price, and then hammer those. There's bargain bins that I like on both sides of this game because you've got some former team angles. But Hawks team total over would be my favorite bet of this one. Like I said, rooting for the Hawks to win, but I don't know if I could pull the trigger on plus 180.
Yeah, same as usual for me with props. I mean, if you're going to look at Edmonton, look at Podkolzin, Savoy, the flankers with McDavid. There's definitely value there with both of them. I mean, Kapanen finally scored the other night, and he's been getting more up the lineup. It's about time he took advantage of it and scored. So maybe you look at Kapanen too for Edmonton. For Chicago, do you go back to the well with Frondell? Maybe. I'm interested as a goal prop there now that he finally got his first in the NHL the other night.
You do that.
There. Rachel co-signs on that. And Nick Lardis. And I'm not saying that because I'm biased. I'm from Hamilton, and he's a Hamilton Bulldog. Nick Lardis back in the day. But I'm always interested in Nick Lardis finding the back of the net as well. Rachel, what do you think here? Blackhawks Oilers.
Yeah, so at Betalytics, every night, as long as there's more than like 2 games, we'll throw up like our top line, our top value pick, and basically where you can find different things. Over 6.5, though, literally reran the model the second Tristan Jarry was confirmed, and that thing skyrocketed to the top. And I was like, oh, well, nevertheless, why am I not surprised? Here's the thing with Tristan Jarry. If he's excellent, Edmonton's going to win, and the game's going to go under. The problem is I trust Tristan Jarry as much as I trust a wolf watching a chicken. I'm not doing it. So don't do that. And so I look at this, take the over, and points night. So that means no Leon Draisaitl. Connor McDavid's going to have to score a lot. So 2+ points for Connor McDavid. I'll take that. Thank you very much. Connor Murphy blocked shots. This man has been a blocked shot machine because
Connor Murphy bowl facing his old team. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Connor Murphy, big time. So Connor Murphy has been a block shot machine. He's playing with Darnell Nurse, and we all know what that can look like sometimes. And Darnell likes to get up in the play, and that leaves Connor Murphy on an island sometimes. And Connor Murphy plays on the penalty kill. And so I think that, given the shot volume that comes from the Blackhawks power play, is absolutely an angle that we need to be playing. Now we're going to go to one of my draft sons, and that is Anton Frundell. I absolutely love this player. I am this close to buying a jersey. I think he is absolutely fantastic. And God bless Chicago, they have moved him up to the second line. He is he's going to play on the power play unit and play at the point, which means he's in a prime shooting position. So I look at that. I go Anton Frundell, 3+ shots. That's plus money. Anton Frundell for a point. And Anton Frundell goal is plus 460 right now. That is a spot where I think you can lay down some coin there. Anyone who is on the top power play unit should not be laying for 400 anything to score a goal. So I think that that's a misprice. And the moment somebody at FanDuel starts paying attention, that's probably not going to be around for much longer. So I look at that. Those are spots, especially because I think the game is going over. The other guy I'll point out is Zach Hyman. He's been really good for Edmonton. Matthew Savoy is kind of a puck retrieval and passer guy, so he's not necessarily the goal guy there. Whereas Zach Hyman's your net front guy, and if McDavid's getting a couple of points, the odds of Zach Hyman getting a point probably pretty high too.
Yeah, with Frundell, I mean, I've been betting him to score a goal every game since he's come up. He looks so comfortable, so relaxed already. We talked about that at the beginning of the show, how these young kids are coming up now and all of a sudden looking, like they belong right away. And he's the guy that, ironic note, you mentioned about almost buying his jersey. You notice he changed his number from 15 to 16 before that last game, that first home game. And that was mainly because he was playing alongside with Marcus Kruger, who was the longtime Blackhawk, great defensive player, part of the Showtime dynasty, also wore number 16. He made that change, and he finally got on board with his first goal. So might need to get a number 16 Frundell jersey if he can score again tonight, and I'm be on that play as well.
Yeah, I went to his debut against the Islanders, which is where I got that jersey. And I didn't have an Isles jersey for my background. I like to rotate these things. And I thought Frundell was so impressive in his first game. I thought he played a really mature game. I think
it helps playing in that Swedish league, that pro league over there as an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
That definitely helps you. No question.
One of the things in my draft model is if you are any level of point producer in the Allsvenskan or in the SHL, the odds that you're going to be a pretty good NHL player, pretty high. So when Frundell was scoring at a level in the Allsvenskan that only Elias Pettersson had outscored, I looked at that and went, yep, that's an NHL player.
Yeah, no question. Like I said, I think it's been absolutely terrific with the way he's looked so comfortable already. Totally agree with that. All right, Utah, Seattle. That's a longer show, but it's been a great show. I don't mind that it's going a little bit longer. We've got Utah minus 135 road favorites, 6 the total. Let's give Rachel credit. She took on coming on and making her show debut on a freaking 14-game NHL card. So she was ready to go clearly. For it. She's done a great job. As far as this game goes, I don't like what I'm seeing from Seattle, really. I mean, it's not been a nice little stretch of games for them. We just saw them get shut out by Connor Ingram. And look, he's been better than Jari. We've talked about that, but still to get blanked by him and Edmonton, that's not a good look at all for Seattle in this time of desperation and urgency when they're trying to make the playoffs. They're just 1-6 in their last 7 games. They're back home off a 6-game road trip. First game back home. I don't like that spot. Rest advantage. Utah hasn't played since beating LA Saturday night. This is another team that's been off for 4 days. And Seattle's coming off the freaking long road trip there that they've had, which took them to the East Coast, Nashville, Columbus, Florida, Tampa, Buffalo, to Edmonton, and now they're back home. I like Utah in the game, but I like Utah first period money line and Utah first goal first period to really pounce on this Seattle team, this jet lag bunch coming off the road, not playing well anyway. So I think Utah gets on the board early. First goal, first period money line. My favorite looks for the Mammoth here in this game tonight. Alex, what do you think here, Utah, Seattle?
Yeah, right there with you on Utah first goal, first period. But I'm also going to go with this first period over minus 128 as well. We've seen both of these teams trending well to that first period over.
Yeah.
So I could see some goals early. Like I said, Seattle coming off that road trip, it wouldn't shock me if Utah scoring the first couple of them. So this is one where I'll be looking for next team to score live, attacking that as well. But pregame, first period over, and first goal, first period for the Mammoth.
We don't have goalies confirmed yet for this game, but projections right now are Karel Vejmelka for Utah and Joey Decord for Seattle. Rachel, what do you think here? Mammoth, Kraken.
Yeah, there's really only one bet that I'm going to take in this game, and it's simply on trend because of how good he's been, and that's Bobby McMahon. I'm a huge fan of what Bobby McMahon has done since getting to Seattle. The guy, I feel like every single time I turn on my television, Bobby McMahon has scored, and I'm like, oh yeah, well, why am I not surprised? And you look at where Utah gives up shots from, it aligns almost to the exact point of where Bobby McMahon generates a ton of his scoring opportunities. And so I look at this, yes, Utah has the rest advantage, but that's not really something for a specific player that would have an impact. And so I look at Bobby McMahon, I think that he's got a chance to put up a point tonight, and I would probably parlay that with a Utah Mammoth win. I think you go the reverse correlation that way. You usually get a pretty good number when you do that. Utah, yes, they are in the playoffs, but they are not firmly there. They still have some level of hockey that they have to play. And when you're getting ready to go play in the playoffs, we know that they're going to play the team that finishes first in the Pacific. They're probably in line to beat that team, if we're being honest, in terms of who is better. And so Andre Tournier has to have them playing really solid defensive hockey, really solid neutral zone forecheck, and making sure that from a rush perspective, they're not giving up a ton. And Seattle does take a ton of opportunities on the rush. And so I think this is an interesting opportunity where Bobby McMahon doesn't get a lot of his opportunities off the rush. So I think if Utah spends any time defending in their own zone, Bobby McMahon is kind of a guy that from a point perspective and from a shot volume perspective is somebody that I would be looking at.
Well, that goes right in line with I've been looking at betting on Bobby McMahon every game pretty much since he's become a Kraken, really. And he's been absolutely spectacular. How many times have we cashed goal props with Bobby McMahon? Yeah, he's been great. What I would say is going into this game, we do have Logan Cooley having scored in back-to-back games for Utah. He might be worth a look. Yeah, for Bobby McMahon, it's 3 of the last 5, it's 6 of the last 10 where he has hit pay dirt and found the back of the net for Seattle. So those are definitely clear choices, as far as goal props tonight here in this game. I've also mentioned Lawson Krause whenever he's been on, and he still is on the top line with Nick Schmaltz and with Clayton Keller. So I still think Krause might be worth a look here as well. All right, we got 3 games left. Calgary, Vegas. Vegas minus 250, home favorites, 6 the total. So I screwed up with the Vegas game the other night against Vancouver, where, we wanted the coach change angle, the new coach angle. We bet on that team the first game. I thought they were going to come out storming, and they really didn't. They looked kind of nervous, actually, a little tight early against Vancouver. And John Tortorella said that pregame. They didn't get going until the second period. So I'm a little bit hesitant to dive in with Vegas first period looks in this game because of that. And then at the same time, do you want to take Vegas team total? You can't lay minus 250. You want to take puck? Maybe you have to take puck line here because you're still not sure they get 4 goals. They didn't get 4 the other night, or they did get 4, but it landed right on 4, and their team total was 4. Their team total tonight is 3.5, minus 140. So maybe they can hit 4. I would lean in that direction, but maybe you want puck line instead. Calgary did get drilled by Colorado. They maybe want to bounce back, show some pride. I get it, but Vegas is trying to string wins together. They're still playing with that new lease on life after the firing of Bruce Cassidy. And as Jonathan Davis has alluded to in the chat, there was some real problems, players and coach, with Cassidy there. And it's almost like a breath of fresh air now having Torts there and expected to bring positive results early on here for Vegas. So I want to be on Vegas. It's just, how do I go about it? Do I take first period? Do I take team total over? Do I take minus 1.5 full game puck line? Maybe a first period minus 0.5 at a plus price, first period puck line. Something along those lines is what I'm looking at. I'm just figuring out how do I go about it. But I want to be on Vegas in some form tonight. And yes, Rasmus Andersson, Jonathan's point. to Jonathan's point, this guy, for some reason, he kind of struggled. Maybe it just took him a while to get comfortable in Vegas. And if the coach is as big a pain in the neck as it sounds like he was, Bruce Cassidy, no wonder he had trouble getting comfortable. But he is getting comfortable now. Back-to-back games with a goal. 3 in the last 5 he has scored a goal for Vegas. So I'm with Jonathan 100%. Rasmus Anderson, not just point prop assist prop, for the goal prop at plus 700. And he scored in back-to-back games from the blue line for this Vegas Golden Knights team. And it's the former player angle against his old team, the Calgary Flames as well. Alex, what do you think here, Calgary, Vegas?
Well, you got a lot of thinking to do. I don't. This is a pass for me. I'm not touching any more games involving Calgary the rest of the way. I'm rooting for Vegas's downfall as somebody who has plus 650 for them to miss the playoffs. And with this crazy price, I'm hoping for shenanigans. I'm hoping Calgary can win this game, kind of like how we saw Vancouver beating Colorado last night. So it's a pass for me. If anything pops up, I'll play it live.
All right, Rachel, how about you? Flames, Golden Knights.
Yeah, I'm all over Rasmus Anderson tonight. I mean, I think it's pretty hard to ignore that angle. It was not the cutest divorce between him and Calgary, and I think that there's some motivation there. Then you add in that he's hot. Then you add in that Calgary is giving up shots to defensemen lately, like they're free candy on Halloween. I think that there's a number of angles here. The one thing I want to point out about Vegas, when you change your coach this late in the season and you are going to the playoffs, the odds that you are making system changes are next to 0. Bruce Cassidy, I will, like Jonathan pointed out, not well liked by the team. One of the best system coaches in the last 20 years in the National Hockey League. John Tortorella, really well liked by his players. If John Tortorella comes in and goes, you're playing Bruce's system, but I am now your coach, we are looking at a team that could be a problem in the playoffs because that's exactly the type of situation they need. They have a really good system. They need better than 880 goaltending because nobody is winning with that. And they need some level of performance boost. And that's exactly what John Tortorella can provide. So I think we're in a scenario here with Vegas where you do not have enough time to execute a system overhaul. You have to go with it. And you're fortunate enough that the system that's in place is a very good one. And so I look at that and I go, we're going to leave that where it is. But here's something. I think it's not nothing that Calgary laid an absolute egg against one former player earlier this week, and they're playing another former player tonight. I think that they're going to get ready to go. And if I'm reading the chat correctly, that Carter Hart is returning tonight.
That
I didn't know because when we took the air, I hadn't heard who the goalie is yet. It's
so
Carter Hart.
If Carter Hart
is
returning tonight,
yeah.
He did play very well under Torts in Philadelphia.
I think that is worth pointing out. Career with Torts.
We also probably want to point out this is Carter Hart's first start in Canada since all of that stuff happened, and the crowd is probably not going to be
Vegas.
particularly.
This is Vegas. This is Vegas. This is Vegas.
Oh, it is. Okay,
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah,
it's his first start against a Canadian team, though, for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, the crowd in Vegas for Carter Hart hasn't been particularly friendly either.
No.
But I look at this. I think Calgary is live. Anytime you've got a goalie that's coming off of like an extended period, off.
Yep.
Especially you're under pressure here, and Calgary laid an egg against one former player. I think we have to take the Rasmus Anderson angle, but I also think that we need to kind of respect Calgary here in the sense that they probably don't want to lay back-to-back eggs against their former players.
Here's where I'm at with that. Everything you said is right about the long layoff for a goalie because I bet against teams and goalies in that situation this year. Stolar's off his injury. He was terrible.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Blackwood got lit up by Nashville, his first game back after an extended time away due to injury and an absence. Carter Hart here could be the same thing, but you also have to compare what he's replacing. He's replacing
this is true.
Below league average goaltending right now from both Aiden Hill and Akira Schmid. Because both of those guys haven't been getting the job done. So how much worse could it be, than what you've been getting from Aiden Hill and Akira Schmid right now? That's the question. Ask
Tristan Jarry that question.
Yeah. So that's right. That's the dilemma. That's the pickle when it comes to this game. Just this Carter Hart element just threw another wrench into it that makes it even more complicated.
It's almost a no bet at this point.
Yeah.
Like it feels like it has to be Calgary or nothing because you shouldn't be laying minus 250 with a goalie that hasn't played in months.
Right.
And at this point, if you are rotating between three goalies, that means you don't have one, and that's a problem if you're a team like Vegas that's supposed to be getting into the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, he did. He had bad peripheral numbers. The goals saved above average or goals saved above expected is a good stat to track for goaltenders. But just his base stats, 3.28 goals against average, 871 save percentage for Carter Hart this year in his
That's
12
below
appearances.
880.
Yeah, I know. And it's just
That
right
is
in line with
below
Schmidt and with
880.
Hill. Yeah, right in line with those other two, Schmidt and with Hill. So, like I said, this is just a very I'm certainly not interested in betting against Vegas post coaching change right now, but there's still some variables right now that are very, very that thrown a wrench into things a little bit. There's definitely a live betting game. The more I think about it, Calgary and Vegas tonight, but except for Rasmus Anderson, we do have to look at props
Rasmus
there.
Anderson and Vegas blocking shots feels like
Right.
the only angles I would remotely be playing right now. And like I said, it's got to be Calgary or nothing. If you're placing a pregame bet, I would not do that.
It looks like Dorofeyev and Howden could be flanking Jack Eichel on the top line for Vegas tonight. So Howden and Dorofeyev, just value, could be there with those two players if they're going to be up on the top line. So that is definitely something worth noting. And like I said, as we mentioned, it goes without saying, Rasmus Anderson, we're interested. Do we maybe look at the other side of the fence too? Former Golden Knight now with Calgary, Victor Olofsson, who's actually been picking it up a little bit lately. Victor Olofsson for Calgary, maybe against his old team, could be worth a look here for props. All right, Toronto, San Jose. San Jose minus 130, home favorite, 6.5 the total in this game. I think this is San Jose or pass. I think for the Leafs, they wanted that pound of flesh from Radko Gudas against Anaheim. They got it. They were up for that game. They wanted to win it. That's the player on the team that took our captain out, Austin Matthews, and we played like it. We played that game with some spirit, some passion, some will to win. I think this could be the game where they fall completely flat again, Toronto, like they did in St. Louis. One up, one down theory. They had their up game against Anaheim. Now they have their down game tonight against San Jose. The only concern is San Jose is on a back-to-back, and that was one hell of a comeback against Anaheim last night. Are they a little flat? But it's Sharks or pass, and I still bet the Sharks here, minus 130, and team total over. Split it between the two. I think the Leafs could give up minimum 4 tonight. I don't trust the Leafs. This is what the Leafs have been doing lately. Up one. They cared against Anaheim. What
would make you not trust the Leafs?
Yeah,
would it be an entire season worth of trash?
Yeah, exactly. What would give me the reason not to trust them? So that's kind of what I'm looking at here. San Jose money line, team total over, split. Lean to the full game over too. Alex, what do you think? Leaf Sharks.
Yeah, I actually laid $1.26 with the Sharks here in this one, and I'm bucking a trend of 3 straight games going past regulation because, like you said, this is a Leafs team that I feel like they had their kind of big grand win against Anaheim. This could be a down spot for them. Sharks needing every point they can take care of. So I think they take care of business, get the 2 points tonight. Not going regulation, though. Playing a little safer, laying the $1.26 with Sharks.
All right, good stuff. Rachel, what are you thinking here, Leaf Sharks?
Yeah, I would not be placing a singular dime on the Toronto Maple Leafs for the rest of the season. And this is somebody who grew
There
up
is the one caveat,
like,
what JD is mentioning, and I've mentioned it too. And I'm
Yes.
kind of going against my own advice. Say, don't take San Jose as a favorite. 2-6 is a favorite this season. So I am a little worried about that, but I'm still on him. Better or worse.
The reason why this is kind of a no bet for me from a Toronto Maple Leaf perspective, I kind of have a policy. I don't bet on teams playing on the second half of a back-to-back, and especially if they're the favorite. And I certainly don't bet on them if it's an emotional game. And San Jose's finish against Anaheim, very emotional. Right. But then you go to the other side of it, Toronto, very extremely emotional game against the same team in Anaheim. And so I look at that. I'm not going to touch the money line here. Something I want to point out, Toronto is, if not the worst, they're bottom 3 in terms of the shots that they give up to centers. And Macklin Celebrini is shooting galore at this point. So I look at this and I go, Toronto is abhorrent defensively. And you have to respect the fact that Macklin Celebrini is one of the best players in the National Hockey League right now. And he's arguably playing at the best level in the NHL. I love Macklin Celebrini's shot ladder. I love Macklin Celebrini for a couple of points. I like a Will Smith assist. I like Joseph Woll over saves because I think the Leafs, from an emotional letdown perspective, are going to be a team that kind of shits the bed a little bit, and Joseph Woll is going to have to be really good, and it won't be the first time that a Leafs goaltender is going to have to be really good in the face of the team in front of them being an absolute garbage dump. The other guy I would look at, simply because of the depth, the lack thereof in Toronto, and his skill level, is Michael Misa. There is significant value on Michael Misa for a point tonight, and he's playing on the third line, but he's going to get some power play time. And when you look at that, I think that's something that certainly has some value here. So all in all, I'll look at a Macklin Celebrini shots ladder, a Will Smith assist, Macklin Celebrini 2+ points, and a Michael Misa point. I think those are kind of where I'd be leaning here. Just simply on the fact that both teams are coming off of an emotional game. I think this could be loosey-goosey. Like, I really do think this game has the potential to just be a tire fire all the way around.
Oh, there we go. It is Woll. Is it Woll for the? No, it's Stolars. It's Stolars again for.
Oh,
Toronto
it was
tonight.
Woll this morning. That's even more concerning.
Yep. It is Stolars.
Yeah, maybe I
wow.
will take the Sharks because I spoke to somebody in the Leafs organization this morning who was under the impression that it was Woll tonight, which means Anthony Stolars probably went to bed last night thinking he had the night off tonight.
Yeah, so it is Stolars and Nedeljkovic. I knew it would be Nedeljkovic because it's back-to-back for San Jose.
I don't think anybody
Askarov.
expected Stolars, though.
Yeah.
Including Anthony Stolars.
It could be true. He maybe didn't expect it. But yeah, ask about me. Yaroslav Askarov last night was in net for San Jose. So it is Nedeljkovic here tonight. Chernyshov might get in tonight. We'll see. He didn't play last night. Game time decision with an illness. We'll see. But because maybe a winning lineup, you don't disrupt a winning lineup. And maybe Warsofsky will just play it safe and not put Chernyshov in tonight. So keep an eye on that. And if he doesn't play, we could be talking about Colin Graff, I believe. Yeah, on the top line with Celebrini and Smith. Could be worth a look. So Graff could be worth a look. I'm going back to Wenberg again. We're starting to ride the Alex Wenberg Express. He has been much better lately offensively. He scored the game winner last night. Back-to-back games with a goal. 3 of the last 5 he scored. You're still getting a great price, plus 370, plus 375 in that range. So yeah,
we
Alex
have one
Wenberg,
more narrative that we need to point out.
Yes.
John Klingberg was something for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Nobody is really sure what.
Right.
He has been really good for the Sharks.
Is he playing though?
And
tonight,
so
is the question.
It kind of feels like, and I haven't I'm
at the moment he's not in tonight, but you never know.
He's not in tonight.
Yeah.
If he is in, you can count me in as somebody who will be betting on John Klingberg to score, because if you know the Toronto Maple Leafs, you know that narrative is the most Toronto Maple Leafs thing that would ever happen, is a guy who is too injured to play for them scoring against them the very next year.
Yeah, I've always said that. Michael Bunting's made a recent career since he left Toronto of scoring against them when he plays them. So, yeah, that happens a lot. Teams that leave Toronto and then they play them again down the road, they score against them. So,
if Klingberg's in, take that.
There you go. John Klingberg says Rachel. If he's in, take him to score as far as that's concerned. Yeah, Celebrini, of course. I mean, it goes without saying. But Graff and Wenberg are my favorite props for San Jose tonight. All right, we've reached our last game, 2-hour show, because it's been so good, and it's been fun to hear Rachel's thoughts here. Nashville and L.A. on this, 14-game card, or is it 14 games on this Thursday slate? Only 4 teams not in action. This is a huge game. This is a playoff game on April 2nd, essentially, before the playoffs. Nashville hanging on, and I mean hanging on right now, and LA, I should say, now in a playoff spot entering this game, but Nashville's right there as well. Now these teams go head-to-head. LA with the second wild card spot at 78, Nashville 1 point behind, 77. It is LA minus 120, home favorites, 5.5 the total. I don't trust Nashville right now. I don't like what I'm seeing from the Predators. There's no chance I'm putting a dime on the Kings after a win on a back-to-back here tonight, after beating St. Louis. And now as a home, now they did win as a home favorite last night, but Jonathan, you can post the record as a home favorite in the chat for the LA Kings this year. It's still terrible. It's still bad. I don't necessarily trust them to do it 2 games in a row, but I don't know. I don't love Nashville's form enough right now. to really want to back them. They've lost 3 in a row against Jersey, Montreal, Tampa Bay. A little bit of a rest advantage, which should help Nashville. They haven't played since Sunday when they lost in Tampa 3-2. So it's probably a good situational advantage for Nashville. I'd lean Nashville. If I had to bet a side in this game, it would be Nashville. But I don't love it. I do love the draw, though. Give me the draw here, Nashville and LA. I think it's a good draw spot. And at 5.5, give me the over. Over 5.5 here. And the reason for that is that LA got drawn into St. Louis's stingy, tighter checking, lower scoring style of game last night. Darcy Kemper's been a little up and down. I haven't loved Kemper's form lately for the Kings. He's in net tonight on the back-to-back. And believe it or not, I can't believe I'm saying this. Oninen has closed the gap on Saros for Nashville. Oninen's been a little bit better lately, and Saros has been a little up and down. I haven't loved his current form in net. UC Saros for Nashville. He's given up 3 goals or more, I think, in 4 of his last 5 starts. So if we think he can give up 3, and we think Kemper in his form can give up 3, well, there's your 6 goals, 3 for each team, and we can get over 5.5 here. So over 5.5 in the draw for me in this one. Great game, a huge game, obviously. I'll be watching it in the late night hours. Alex, what do you think here? Nashville, LA.
Had 3 straight meetings go past regulation, so I grabbed the draw. Actually grabbed plus 310 last night. It's now down, I see, at 305 over at Bet Online. Definitely feels like it's a game where, both teams like they're hanging on for dear life, and that's kind of how this game could be played too. I will be on that over 5.5, but I'm going to wait and grab it in game. We've been able to do that with the Kings, getting closer to plus money with those over 5.5. But yeah, this should be a fun one at the end of the night. Nashville has played in LA very well. They've won 8 of the last 11 meetings. And so that's something to kind of look at when you're talking about an LA team that has struggled at home. If I had to lean with a side, it would be toward Nashville. But just going with the draw and then the live over.
Yeah, I'm leaning hard on Nashville. I don't know if I'll bet it, but I'm definitely definitely a lean Nashville if I'm betting a side here in this game. But right now I'm only on the over 5.5 and the draw here in this one. And yes, earlier this year they played in Nashville, these teams, and it went to overtime, 5-4 Nashville in a shootout rather. Nashville beat LA in Nashville back in October. That's the last time they met. So definitely, like I said, draw on the over. Hopefully we get a repeat tonight. Rachel, final game. What do you think here? Predators, Kings.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, I think it was like really early in the show. We do expected scores for both teams. Not joking. Tonight's expected score between LA and Nashville, 2.6 to 2.6. So you can count me in on the clean sweep for the draw. That feels like a scenario where I can't ignore that. So I'm going to go with that. I lean Nashville as well, simply because they're not playing back-to-back. And LA is not very good at home. So I think when you combine all of those factors and the fact that the projection is exact, I don't go to 2 decimal points. That's silliness. Like, I don't display them. I'm sure I have them in the model and can look. My guess is that Nashville would be favored there. Nashville has higher shot volume of late. They're playing at a higher pace, and the LA Kings are blocking a ton of shots. So I think a sneaky sort of value is to take Los Angeles Kings players blocked shots. I haven't had a chance. They weren't listed when the show started, so I haven't had a chance to go through that. But LA is desperate. They're in playoff desperation mode, just like Nashville. And one of the things that gets preached by DJ Smith is block shots. I have heard it with my very own ears. So I think when you look at that, you look at the draw because both teams need a point. That's most certainly on the table. But I would actually say I think that the best way to attack player props in this game might be the block shots.
There you go. The block shots for the Kings, and they've been doing it quite a bit. And in a game of this magnitude, you may expect that to continue. Don't get me even closer to betting Nashville, Jonathan, with that stat, but I'll throw it up there anyway. Kings 4-9 on the second night of back-to-back games this season. So, yeah, it's Nashville for me if I'm betting this side. There's no question I wouldn't be on LA here in this situation tonight. One prop I want to mention, obviously for LA, we've talked about with the Kings that, Trevor Moore, he scored the game winner. He's on the second line. Byfield, LaFerriere, anyone on that line, I don't mind as far as a goal prop. I'll throw one with some value for Nashville. Zachary Leroux is playing with O'Reilly and Stamkos, it looks like, here tonight. Zachary Leroux on the top line, and he did score for this Predators team. I believe it was a couple games ago versus Montreal when they played the Habs. Yeah, when they lost 4-1 to Montreal, Zachary Leroux got their only goal that night, and he's on the top line. So I like the value there with Zach Leroux for the Nashville Predators on that top line tonight against LA. Great stuff. What a show, man. 50. I mean, that's what's amazing. Rachel agreed to come on today. I mean, on a 14-game card. We didn't make it easy on Rachel in her debut coming on to
Hopefully
talk.
I passed the test.
Yeah,
Yes,
excellent job.
absolutely.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Yeah, don't worry. We will get Rachel back on. That is not even you don't even have to, that's not even an if we get her back on. It'll be when we get Rachel back on again. But great stuff. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. Good stuff. How much time do you got? Can you hang through just like a minute ad break and we get to bargain bin best bet and wrap up the show?
Yep, I can do that.
All right, excellent. We just
All
want to
right.
make sure. All right, wizardsportspicks.com. Make sure you check out the website. Again, number one in NHL college basketball, daily premium picks. Check it out, wizardsportspicks.com. Patreon.com/Ice Guys, $10 per month. Again, goalie charts, totals charts. You get the daily betting card, sides, totals, player props posted each and every day on the Patreon page. Access to our Patreon exclusive live betcast, like the one we had last night that was so much fun. So don't miss out on the next betcast. And the way you avoid missing out is coming on board, becoming a member. Again, your membership goes a long way to supporting the show and keeping it going long term. $10 per month. Get on board. Patreon.com/Ice Guys.
And also check out the Ice Guys store, iceguys.myspreadshop.com. You have until midnight tonight Eastern to save 30% on all your items. Just hit the redeem button at the homepage, add your items to your cart, and 30% will be taken off at checkout. Springtime, so it's a great time to get a t-shirt, a hoodie, a cap, maybe all three of the above. Save 30% off until midnight tonight Eastern. That's over at iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
All right, bargain bin special of the night and best bets coming up right after we hear from our great Ice Guys sponsors.
Wizard Sports Picks, featuring the finest handicappers in the universe. Sharp insights, trusted picks, and relentless results. We strive to help you become consistent winners. This is Wizard Sports Picks.
All right, it is time for bargain bin special of the night. I have a hell of a hard time trying to follow up last night where we cashed two bargain bins, 2-0 sweep with Parker Kelly and Alex Wenberg, both finding the back of the net last night. But we'll see how we can add to it. Alex, we'll start with you. Bargain bin special of the night.
I got a pair of them. They're both involving that Chicago-Edmonton game. We will start with the visitors first, the Blackhawks. I'm looking at Ryan Green to get on the board. You can get him now over at FanDuel. Anytime goal scorer plus 525. He's a guy who's always had some quality chances. I think he's going to be involved getting up front, always just kind of just pestering around the net, and I think he can get one past Tristan Jarry tonight. So Ryan Green plus 525. That's my first bargain bin special. For the home team, the second one will be the Trooper. Jason Dickinson, his first game against the Blackhawks, mentioned about how, he loved his time there, but now he's, loyal to the oil. So at plus 400, give me Jason Dickinson anytime goal scorer. That would be my second bargain bin special for tonight.
Good stuff. There we go. I like both of those. All right, Rachel, what do you got for us? Your first ever bargain bin special of the night on the Ice Guys show.
Yeah, I feel like you and I were talking just before the show, and literally every guy I pointed out, it was like 10 points away from being bargain bin. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Yep.
So I'm going to go with Anton Frundell. I think that bump to the second line, plus being on the top power play unit, that you should not be plus 400 anything if you are on a top power play unit. So I really like that. I'm going to stick with my boy Porter Martone. He's generating scoring opportunities at Detroit defensively. Hasn't been cute. And I didn't check his line, but you can count me among the people that think Zach Benson is going to score tonight.
There you go. All right, I like it. We'll give you Anton Frindell. And how about the Porter Martone goal prop? We'll mark you down for that one too.
Yeah, plus 360 with that price.
That's very good. Yeah, Porter Martone and Anton Frindell. There we go. Couple of goal props, bargain bin for Rachel in her debut, and for me. As far as a bargain bin special, I almost forgot about me. Jeez, how can we forget the 2-0 guy from last night? I almost didn't give my bargain bin specials. I got two. I'm going to Anthony Mantha. He is just terrific right now for Pittsburgh. That's my first against Tampa Bay. He's been feeling it right now, and it's plus 330, the best price out there for Anthony Mantha for Pittsburgh. And the second bargain bin special, a very rare, but I love the situation. I love the matchup. He scored in back-to-back games, playing now his former team. I don't have many defensemen bargain bin specials, but Rasmus Andersson for the Vegas Golden Knights, plus 750 at Betway, the best price out there. So Anthony Mantha, plus 330 for Pittsburgh to score a goal. Rasmus Andersson, Vegas, plus 750 to score a goal. My two bargain bin specials here for this Thursday night. All right, best bets. Alex, what do you got for best bet?
It's been a very, very long time since April 14th, 2011. That was the last time that you could officially say the Buffalo Sabres had a playoff berth in the Stanley Cup playoffs. That changes tonight. Give me the Buffalo Sabres to win, plus 100.
All right, the drought ends tonight for the Buffalo Sabres. Buffalo money line, best bet for Alex. Rachel, best bet.
I'm going to go with two here. I'm going to go Quinn Hughes over 2.5 shots. I think he probably gets double that. So I'll go with Quinn Hughes over 2.5 shots. And then Pavel Zacha for a point. I think that run of play really favors the Boston Bruins. And given what Florida's given up, it really feels like Zacha at minus 125, even minus 130, high-end value there. So those are my two best bets.
All right, great stuff. I like both of those. All right, my best bet. I feel like I'm onto something now with this first period goal bet. We cashed a best bet Vancouver first period goal last night. Give me those Blue Jackets tonight. I'm going back to the same type of bet tonight. Columbus Blue Jackets goal in the first period, minus 138 is the best price with this at FanDuel. I'm going to sprinkle on the first goal, first period. I think Alex maybe mentioned it too. Might be interested in that, but I'm to play it safe. I'm going to go with Columbus just to score in the first period in a backs against the wall spot against Freddie Anderson and the Carolina Hurricanes. So Columbus goal in the first period, minus 138 for my best bet here for this Thursday slate. Great stuff, Rachel. Can't say enough the great job you did. Just before we shut the show down, one more time to promote and talk about what you're involved with.
Yeah, so I'm the CTO of Betalytics. We build models. It started with hockey, but now there's baseball, there's soccer / World Cup, NBA, NFL, all that stuff. I'm in the process of building out daily fantasy stuff too. But you can go and you can check that out. You can get 5 days for free because, like I said, I'm not a believer in asking people to pay for anything without having the ability to try it out first. Yes, golf is coming at some point. But I look at this and I go, give it a try. It's a ton of information. Yes, you won't see picks, but you'll see projections and recommendations. But it's a ton of information, and it's across sports, and the whole subscription gets you access to everything. There's also a parlay bot that I built that takes the projections plus the hit rates plus the matchup advantage and builds parlays for you, and then it goes directly into your sports book. So if you like easy betting, there's that too. And you can find me there, and that's where all of my work is, or I write for ESPN. So if you want to read some non-betting stuff, you can find my work at ESPN.
Nice.
Check out the great work of Rachel Krychak here on the with hockey and all sports, not just hockey. I mean, Betalytics is involved with all the other sports as well. So make sure you check that out. Great stuff. Great show. Reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms. For Alex B. Smith and for Rachel Krychak, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Thursday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And back tomorrow on Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern for another edition of the Ice Guys.